Tonight, San Antonio will make history. Good evening and welcome to this KSAT election live stream. I'm Steve Spriester along with Myra Arthur. We are electing a new mayor tonight, as well as council people from districts 1, 6, 8, and 9. All of those elections will be decided. Polls closing about a minute and 4 seconds ago.
We were here a month ago, roughly, talking about all these races and more, but such a crowded field for mayor. 27 people has now been whittled down to 2, and the race has been very interesting over the last month. We're going to talk about it all, including the predictions. Let's introduce our power panel joining us for tonight's live stream. We are joined once again by Kevin Wolf, local consultant now, former city councilman and county commissioner. We have Ana Ramon, executive director of the organization Annie's List, and we have DeMonte Alexander, CEO of Citizen Reach. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having us.
All right, I've had people ask me my prediction on this whole thing, and the only thing I can come up with is it's going to be close.
Very.
I expect a close election. I want to, before we go out in the field and before we hear from the elections administrator at about 7:15 tonight, I want your guys' take on what we're looking at just in the mayor's race. And I'll let you go first.
Sure. I think just looking at a couple of things, as we predicted, I think if we go back into our crystal ball, we're about 53% more voters at this point in time than were even a month ago, which feels crazy, not 2 years, a month ago. And if you're looking at Dem-based voters, we had about 53% of voters come out that were Dem, around 37 come out that were Republican, but 10% who are independents. So there's this really interesting dynamic that we're going to see in these municipal voters, and we'll know here in the next couple hours.
Yeah. DeMonte.
Well, piggybacking on what Anna said, you talked about the 57 some odd percent Dems that come out, but also, again, this is a nonpartisan race, and so you don't really know who those Dems are voting for or whether they're not voting for. So I think this is unprecedented time for San Antonio, and I think it's going to be extremely, extremely close.
Yeah.
I do give Gina a slight nudge based on our history, based on the demographics of the city, and how we historically vote in these elections. I'm thinking Gina might pull it out.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah.
So, yes, 50 some odd percent more. However, that still means we won't pass 15% voter turnout. So, and what I'm seeing is a very strong turnout in 8, 9, and 10. Mm-hmm. And that bodes well for Rolando, I think. Because both these candidates, right, wrong, or indifferent, have made this pretty partisan.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see. I do think I give the edge to Rolando's. I think he'll come out of early vote with somewhere between 52 and 54%.
Supposed to be a nonpartisan race. It hasn't been. Let's go now to the Bexar County Elections Administrator. We're hearing from her a little bit earlier than we expected. This is Michelle Carew. Looks like she's stepping away. Does she have more to say? Let's.
All right. Is our Zaria Oates there? Is Zaria there?
Are we able to talk to her? We do have some numbers.
Really? That's.
We just got numbers in.
Okay, so we're getting some numbers. As soon as we can get those turned around, we were expecting that about 7:15. That was,
Very
again, the Bexar County Elections Administrator, Michelle Carew. Back in May was the first election that she had run for Bexar County.
I told you.
And we're
I said
excited,
4 points.
including
I said 4 points.
It's over, bro. It's
All
over,
right.
folks.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right. So this is the early vote that we have right now, right? These are the correct numbers that we have?
Yes.
All right. Right now, Gina Ortiz Jones with 52% of the vote.
4
Rolando
points,
Pablos
man.
with
That's
48%. The numbers add up to what it looks like in early voting. This looks like it'd be the total
Yes.
from early voting.
Yes, this looks like the total of early voting, and I will say, just to counter a few things that were mentioned, and not because there's numbers on the board now, but where we also saw increases in voting was District 6, where we had a very large primary runoff or general runoff. We also saw the fact that, like, now the commissioner district that largely composes the north side was actually won by Kamala Harris. Like, there's a reality of the north side of Bexar County is actually becoming more Democratic, and I think turnout still favored Gina Ortiz Jones, as we saw. And at this point in time, I would say, and I know we talked about this, I think Rolando really needed about 50 to 55,000 voters to come out today to make up any gap.
Yeah, and we didn't get the totals on what it was, but it's not going to get there.
Right, and I think Anna said something earlier before we came on air, is that, and I forget what I was going to say.
That's all right. Kevin, you don't agree with the fact that this is over at this point?
No. Look, I stick by that 54% number. I've said it almost every time we've done this. If you're at 54% and above after early vote, you can kind of consider it a lock. If you're below, it's still a toss-up. This is going to be a long night.
I remember now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about how after the election, after the general election, if Rolando had enough time to then pivot from a conservative base to a more moderate type of candidate. And I think what this is showing is he did some work in there, but I don't think he had enough time to really canvass across the whole city to really get that moderate message out. You would want to be a little bit closer than that. I mean, he's within the margin of error. Let's just say he's on the outside
Yes.
skirts of the margin of error, but he's got a lot of work to do on election day, which does favor conservatives, right?
Okay. So I would say, go ahead.
I was just going to say, traditionally, I always think that Election Day is when Democrats come out and Republicans vote early. But I know that that's kind of been turned on its head in recent elections.
Well, and what we saw in the trend over the last 3 or 4 days of EV is an increased Democratic turnout, upwards of 57% to Republican turnout. So I would assume that the last day of early vote, which was around those numbers, will maybe mostly reflected in Election Day results as well.
All right, we have our Dylan Collier. He is covering the Gina Ortiz Jones camp for us tonight. He's standing by.
You called that one.
We're just got these early vote totals. Dylan, what's going on out there? Any reaction so far?
Hi, Myra. Yeah, loud applause. Molly Cox, who we've seen on the KSAT election panel many times before, announced the early vote totals that it was about a 5 percentage point lead for Gina Ortiz Jones right out of the gate with the early voting totals. Loud applause erupted as a result. She said that the candidate would be working to close out various polls and then would be making an appearance here at the Dakota Eastside Ice House. I can give you the full rundown of events. They let us into the watch party, which is a nice change. We got that going for us. At 8:15 p.m., Gina Ortiz Jones is scheduled to address the crowd, and then again at 9:45 she will address the crowd. She will not take questions from the media until the election is called, whether that be tonight or early tomorrow morning, depending on how the vote totals from today go. But there is enough buzz surrounding her watch party and sort of her run for mayor of San Antonio that they've actually had to open an overflow watch party for supporters of Gina Ortiz Jones. That is Sparky's on Main Street. So if they reach capacity here at the Dakota, people are encouraged to go to Sparky's on Main and celebrate and watch election results with supporters at that second location. So pretty good vibes out here off of Hackberry. Around a 5% lead for Gina Ortiz Jones. We'll see how the night unfolds.
It's really good in Hood County.
All right, Dylan Collier reporting live from the Dakota Ice House. Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate that. All right, let's go to the Pablos watch party now, which I believe is at the Drury Inn out in La Cantera area. Garrett, are you with us? Garrett Berger out there live now. There he is.
That's right.
Hey,
So
Garrett.
we're out here at Drury Inn. That's where the. All right, we're out here at Drury Inn. This is where the Pablos watch party is happening. Right now the crowd's a little subdued. They saw the results come in. There wasn't a whole lot of, there definitely wasn't any clapping, but we didn't hear any sighs, anything like that. Nobody seems depressed or anything at this point. But this is obviously going to be a close race. And we do know from the way that some of the recent polling has shown that more Republicans are supporting Pablos, more Democrats going for Gina Ortiz Jones. This is obviously a Democratic-leaning city, so it is in her favor. But this doesn't seem to be huge turnout, so it's really going to come down to who was able to drive out voters. And we did see that there's been millions of dollars, multiple millions of dollars spent in this race so far, not just by the candidates, but actually a lot of outside groups spending on this race. I've been seeing ads everywhere. We saw a plane the other day carrying a Pablos banner behind it. The ads are everywhere on our phones. I still got text messages today. I've seen door hangers. I don't know about you, but I've got more mailers from election campaigns than I do bills, which is a nice change, actually. That's a ratio I don't feel too bad about. But we've seen a lot of spending. Not sure how it's going to translate into getting the voters out. We're not going to know that for a couple hours.
All right, Garrett. I mean, we're talking roughly, by my rough calculation, we're talking roughly just less than 6,000 votes that are separating the two of them right now. You still sense optimism at the Pablos camp?
I don't sense defeat. I haven't, honestly, right now, everybody seems to be pretty even-keeled. I haven't seen a whole lot of cheering. I'm not seeing anybody hanging their heads either. No one's ready to throw in this race just yet.
All right, Garrett Berger live at the Rolando Pablos watch party. Thank you, Garrett. Of course, we'll be checking in with Dylan and Garrett throughout the evening. Let's go through some of the other races, though, that let's go back and show you the mayor's race first here, and you get an idea of what we're talking about. 52% for Gina Ortiz Jones, 48% for Rolando Pablos. Like I said, about 5,000 votes, 6,000 votes between the two of them. And we had how many votes today, Anna?
Close to 40,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a margin that you would think could be made up?
I would say, and we were just talking about this, I do think Rolando would need 56% of the election day votes, and I don't think that's statistically feasible for him.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he would have needed a much different election day and an undercurrent of Republicans that we just don't think are out there right now.
Yeah. You agree with that, Kevin?
No.
I totally thought. I saw the smirk on your face, so I'm guessing that you don't agree with that.
So, but to the point, Rolando's got a lot of ground to make up, and it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But we have seen here and elsewhere, I'll say it again, if you're not over that 54% after early vote, you better be nail biting, because somebody can make up a lot of ground. Think about it from the past election. He opened at 14% and he ended at 17%.
True.
That's still 3, not 4.
I think we all agree to disagree.
Let's let our math majors work on that right now. Let's go to some of the other runoff elections. Let's go to some of the council races right now. Incumbent Secor almost won without a runoff. She's comfortably ahead after early voting, 64% to 36%. Let's go to District 6 right now. And Rick Galvan, who actually came in second. This was a very close race.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the general, still a very close race in this runoff between these two individuals. I mean, you're talking just over 100 votes there, 150 votes roughly between the two of them. This is going to be one we're going to have to watch throughout the evening. And let's go to District 8 right now real quick. And make sure my clicker works. There we go. And Evelise Gonzalez, 57%. Paula McGee, 43%. Again, Evelise was very close to winning without having to go to a runoff
Yes,
in May.
She had made it to like that 45% threshold, and she's obviously built on that foundation.
And I'll add to that, if you look at Dr. Kaur's race, and Evelise's race, those are fairly Democratic or progressive candidates. Those help propel Gina as well, because those voters have to come back out and vote for those candidates again. District 1, District 8, Northside District 8. So that definitely helps boost Gina's numbers as well.
Yeah. All right, let's look at 9 now as we go to the final runoff tonight. Misty Spears, 57%. Angie Taylor Aramburu, 43%. This, a big victory for the Republican-leaning candidate.
Thank you, Rolando.
Yes. I think, and then we saw that a vast majority of the people that turned out this time around and skipped the general were Republicans coming out of D9 and 10. So this is not surprising.
Yeah. All right. There are some races and not so close races. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our election night live stream.
I think you will see District 9.
welcome back to the heart of the KSAT newsroom. It is election night in San Antonio, Vote 2025, and right now it seems as if Gina Ortiz Jones is in control of the mayor's race. She has a 52 to 48% lead right now when it comes to the latest races. This is not KSAT Sports now. Just to clarify.
It is kind of a sport.
It is kind of sporty, but that's not what we're doing right now.
In some cases.
I want to talk about some of the other races that we saw. This is the mayor's race. We're waiting for early votes. We're going to check in with Arzaria Oates, who's at the Elections Administrator's Office. I'm curious what the latest numbers are for turnout right there. But let's go through some of these other races quickly, because I just wanted to get the numbers out there. I want your guys' reaction as we talk about some of these other races. First, District 1, like we said, Sucor was very close to winning this outright without a runoff.
And honestly, while not everything is partisan, this is very in line with what we saw partisan breakdown, like a 64-36 split. And District 1 was one of the districts we saw actually increase their vote share from the general by over a point.
Yeah. And I think we quickly forget that she had a very competitive race.
A lot of people lining up to race.
Yes, and they ran fairly decent campaigns. And so for her to almost win outright is impressive in itself. And so that would lead you to believe that she would look this way on the runoff. So well done.
All right, let's go to 6, because this is by far the closest race that we have tonight. Rick Galvan, 51%, Kelly Ann Gonzalez, 49%. I mean, like we said, basically 150 votes.
Yeah, this is recount territory. I think this is going to be into the night, into tomorrow, who knows? And it really is a testament, because I think one of the most impressive boxes in turnout today was the Great Northwest, which is dead center in D6. And it seems like both teams were doing a really intense turnout effort.
Yeah, that's it. That will definitely, day of is going to sway this election.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It comes down to resources. Who had the most resources to be able to reach more voters? But if you look at these two candidates' backgrounds, they are organizers themselves, and so that, to your point about the turnout, when you have candidates who understand the mechanics of a race, you get the surges in turnout like that. But no matter who wins, I'm hiring. I want to hire that person to be on my team.
Yeah. And
you're going to be my field director, okay?
It's literally coming down to who's going to get the vote out in this. Right. All right, let's go to 8 right now, and might make sure operator error, I'm sure, is what's occurring here. Ivelisse Mesa Gonzalez, Kevin, she is no stranger to politics.
Ivelisse and her family have been very involved in local politics for a very long time. And to Ivelisse's credit, she started early and she worked hard the entire time. I am a little surprised at the breadth of this split. I expected her to be around 54, 53%. She worked it hard and she wins this.
Anna, would you say, I know we've talked a lot about how the demographics are changing on the north side. Would you say District 8 is definitely one of those?
Let's go back into time again. We talked about this being the bellwether, right? And truly, I will say this, just even looking at partisan breakdown, she's outperforming Democratic performance by 4 points. And Paula is underperforming by 3. So if you're looking at these candidates, I think what also helped Ivelisse that Paula did not have is Ivelisse has ran before, countywide. So you have built-in name ID, very similar to Gina. You have a district that's changing rapidly and becoming, I think, a bellwether for where Bexar County and San Antonio is going. And then you have someone who very clearly ran a good campaign.
All right, and go ahead.
No, good.
I was just going to go check in 9 real quick and show you that. Misty Spears, 57%, 43% to Angie Taylor, Aramburu. Misty, the Spears name certainly, I think, carries some weight in San Antonio. And this was a very close race earlier.
It was. But again, this race has been made so partisan. And when you're talking about what is the most conservative district out of all the council districts, that's this district. So I'm not surprised. Again, I'm a little surprised at the spread because it was so close earlier. But
I think why you're seeing this spread is because of the top. Right? The top is so partisan between the mayor's race. There's a lot of surge in helping. How much money was spent on Rolando's?
billions of dollars.
So that's going to help Misty in the areas like that, and so I think that's why you see that spread. But we've had 8 years of Courage, who was somewhat moderate.
Oh, yeah. Well,
right?
and that's what really kind of depresses me about this whole race.
Yeah.
Is you had a true, I wouldn't even call it moderate.
Constituent services, yeah.
Okay. John's philosophy is pretty far left, but he did the job of a nonpartisan position.
There you go. There you go.
And
I
he
can
was
agree with
very
that.
successful
Yeah.
at it.
Listen to his constituents.
Number one in constituent services.
Yeah.
Number one by far.
All right, let's go back to the mayor's race because we talked a little bit about the fact that this is still close. It's certainly you'd rather beat Gina Ortiz Jones right now than Rolando Pablos. A lot of this, Myra, is going to come down to election day and who got their voters out. And our Zaria Oates is at the elections administrator's office right now. Zaria, what's the latest total that we have on turnout today on election day?
Yeah, so the latest information we have right now is that there are still lots of people in line all across the city. We do know that we are ahead from those 2009 voters. We had 15% voter turnout in 2009, and this year we're at 17% with people still in line, votes still being counted, and of course about a 4% difference in that mayor's race. One of the big things that we asked the elections administrator about earlier today was why she believes that there is such a big difference between 2009 and now, and also the first election this year and now. And she did mention, Fiesta was going on when we had the initial election. There were also so many candidates on the ballot and so many other things that people had to vote for that maybe it was just a little bit overwhelming. She did also mention a lot of candidates being boots on the ground during these last couple of weeks. And we do know that we've seen Gina Ortiz Jones at several events over the last couple of weeks and even just days, many events out in the community. So that could also play a role. But right now we're already surpassing and beating records from years past in terms of voter turnout. And it's looking like obviously it's going to increase as the night goes on because there are still people in line. And if you are watching from your phone and you're in line, remember you can stay in line. You just had to be in line by 7 p.m. tonight, so make sure you're still continuing to cast your ballot. Live from the elections office, Zaria Oates, KSAT 12 News.
All right.
Zaria, stay with me for a second because I was a little surprised that the elections administrator came out right at 7 instead of 7:15 like we thought she was going to, especially when people are in line still out there. Did she address that at all, why she decided to come out so early?
Yeah, we didn't talk quite about that, but we did expect her to come out a little bit before 7:15 just because there are those record numbers, and she did want to tout how big of a deal it is that so many people are coming out to vote today and then also during early voting, especially with such a tight race, or at least a race that we expect it to be pretty tight this go around. Now we will ask her more questions. She does plan to come back out a little bit later as more votes get counted, as those offices close their doors and people finish counting those final ballots. So as we learn more from that, we'll bring that to you. Steve.
All right, Zaria, thanks so much. We'll check in with you as soon as we get another update down at the elections office. So to the power panel, when you all hear people are still in line at this hour with especially the mayor's race, as close as it is. I know, Kevin, you were mentioning some numbers that had to be hit on election day.
Best practice.
What does that say to you if there are still folks who are waiting to vote 25 minutes after polls close?
So, one, I actually think the longer lines, and I think today's vote will go more Rolando's way. Will it be enough for him to make up that 4-point difference? I don't know. But it will make this probably one of the closest mayor races we have ever had. Okay? I am not particularly happy with our elections administrator releasing early vote.
That's
I think
why
it
I
might
asked the
have been
question, why do you come out when there's still people in line?
Yeah.
Why do you come out and give results?
You don't usually do that. And I mean, we certainly haven't done that here in the past.
Right.
We've sat here and complained about, okay, when are we going to release early vote?
Right.
Yeah.
We were talking about it before we started. As big as it is today, maybe 8:30, we'd get early vote. So, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that it was a mistake.
Yeah.
We did see the elections administrator step up there to speak and then stepped off real quick, and then all of a sudden early vote was out.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody pressed the wrong button. I don't know.
Maybe. Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, we have a new judge. We're also dealing in a world where we keep talking about the term partisan, like the elections office, unfortunately, is now hyper-partisan.
Yeah.
So my hope is that she was, had a very an honest response as to why it came out. I think our job right now is to say, like, hey, if you're in line, please stay in line.
Yeah.
You still get to activate and be a part of this voting electorate. So I think that's where we need to be in how we talk about this. But ultimately, it was a decision made by the new EA, and she'll have to answer for it.
I don't think there was anything, and I do want to, again, give her the benefit of the doubt. I don't
Yes.
think there's anything in the early numbers that's going to dissuade somebody from voting.
No.
But it just isn't usually done. You don't usually
No.
get the
Well, if
results.
you're in
when
line and you're on your phone, well, you can't be on your phone in so many feet. But if you're online, the word's going to get out, the numbers are out, and so I can see your point where it could be concerning. But
you can have your Apple Watch on.
yeah,
Yes.
And it
alerts,
comes across and
Yeah.
a lot of different things. Like I said, I think that this vote right now is so close that it's not going to really dissuade anybody from getting
No,
out and voting one way or
as
the
to what mentioned, I think once we get that first round of votes, we'll really have a good indication
Yeah.
of where the rest of election day will be. Now, is there enough runway? This is my least favorite thing to talk about. Yeah, there could be, but ultimately 4 points, that's within what is right outside the margin of error.
I'm getting texts from both campaigns tonight and people that are involved in both campaigns, and I don't know that I've ever got as many texts with people using the term "eke it out."
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to eke it out. I think she's going to eke it out. There's a lot of eking out going on.
Maybe just a lot of eking.
Well, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I got
exactly.
an eke problem
Exactly.
going on my phone.
Well, whoever the new mayor is will hopefully fix it. So
Yeah. There you go.
Do you guys, we have talked about this being a nonpartisan race, but it feels like the only way in which it's nonpartisan anymore is there's not an R and a D on the ballot. I mean, it's a partisan race. It's become that.
Yeah.
Can you remember a city council race, a mayoral race that has been so partisan in the past, even though it wasn't supposed to be?
No, but it's slowly been going that way. I
Right.
guess maybe when you look
Brockhouse.
at Ron and Brockhouse.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was certainly a taste of it there, but I think this is indicative of politics in general, not just here. I don't care what level it is. Why we're doing it to ourselves, I don't know, but we're pushing towards the ends of the spectrums on both sides and making everything a partisan issue, whether it's politics or not.
I think it's also, when you look at national politics and state politics, everybody's consuming all this information in media. We can call it nonpartisan all day, but when people go vote, they have an idea in mind and have their values in mind, whether they're progressive or conservative. So the voters make it partisan. You can call it what you want to call it, but now when the candidates come out and have their stump speeches and when the things that they talk about versus talking about partisan issues versus talking about trash cans and stray animals and all those things. Now I think we can change the rhetoric a little bit when it comes to how we campaign on these races, but I think voters are going to go to the vote with their values in the back of their mind, and they're going to vote one way or the other. Does that make sense?
And yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I will also say, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Also, Greg Abbott decided to put his thumb on the scale. And I think he's trying to build out and has had some success in other parts of the state. He wants to be, in my mind, more active in these elections. And when you have someone at that level of partisanship who's, not thinking about just governor, but what it means elsewhere, it's going to have these kind of ramifications where money is poured in from Republican Pats, then Democrats will pour in money. It just creates an atmosphere that I think people, unfortunately, in San Antonio will have to realize it's going to be more business as usual.
Yeah, but you can also say the same thing about DCDs trying to influence
DC
down
donors,
here.
yeah, DC donors,
So you were right. I don't disagree. The governor, stuck his nose in, so to speak.
He did,
But the same was happening on the other side. They just happened to be coming out of
Well,
DC.
you saw that
not the state
happening
of Texas.
at the last election for the state house races. You saw that too, right?
Yeah.
And so, and you also see that there is legislation that was passed or working
Yep.
on that wants to control local control, right?
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
has to do with the mayor and city council as well and their authority and the things that they can pass and not pass. So.
Can we talk a little bit about endorsements in this race? Because I
Yes,
remember sitting
please.
here in May and we were looking at, Gina at 27%, Rolando had 16%, I believe. And you're trying to figure out, where does the vote go? Who does it get? I mean, are people making calls to the other campaigns to get them to come on board? We saw almost none of that. We saw none of the candidates that ran in May endorse either one of these two main candidates. Why not?
I think the only exception was Perry. I think Perry did endorse Rolando.
Okay.
But that was actually to be expected.
Yes.
But there were a number that I sort of expected to go one way or the other, and for all of them to not commit one way or another, it was kind of surprising.
Well, the people that finished third, Beto Altamirano, and the person that finished fourth, Adriana Rocha Garcia, did not endorse anyone.
Right. You could also say that, okay, once that I endorse a candidate and their candidacy, that effectively mine goes away, right? And so if you have intentions to run in 4 years, now you're going to go back and say, what? Well, you endorsed me. You said you agree with these. So how, you know what I'm saying? So it could be a strategic positioning type of thing. You can individually support the candidate, but not endorse your campaign endorsing that candidate. So there's a lot of ways around it, but I think it is telling that whether you get the endorsement or not. Now, I'm someone that believes that there's this whole thing about endorsements, give me your logo. There's a whole superficial side of endorsements that don't come with anything and it doesn't even help you. An endorsement is you give me a list, you give me financial resources, you give me block walkers, you give me something tangible that I can see, touch, and feel that I can use to help me in my campaign. That's an endorsement, whether you publicly say it or not. Most of the endorsements that I see, I'm endorsed by this group or that person, really didn't come with much of anything. So
I also think this speaks to where Texas and even San Antonio is. We're at an inflection point. We're going to continue to get attention. We're going to continue to be at the epicenter. And with, I know talking about the census and reapportionment, we're going to get 4 to 5 new congressionals. We're going to get more electoral college votes. The insider versus the outsider, it's just not the inside politics, the inside baseball, maybe some of the reasonings why people decided not to endorse someone who wasn't an inside city council member, an inside city hauler. That's no longer the case. I even talked to Republican consultants. Everyone from Trump on, we're in a very destabilized political time right now. And it's hard for people to kind of meander through that and realize when I came into council, that's no longer the political reality I live in. So understand giving some grace here, but I think it's speaking more to where we're headed as a state.
Can I say that there's 2 major names? Let's the opponents, let's take them out. There are 2 major names who did not endorse this go around. The current mayor, Ron Nirenberg, and former mayor and county judge Nelson Wolff. I found those 2 names very interesting that they did not come out and endorse.
Yeah.
Kevin, you have any insight in that?
Could you call anybody to ask?
I know nothing. No, I can give you a little bit of insight in regards to the former county judge's opinion as to what Beto has done.
Yes.
And his advice.
Because he came out and endorsed Beto Altamirano.
Yes, he did.
In the
he
journal.
did.
Yes.
And he said something to Beto very close to what DeMonte was talking about. You're young. You don't need to do this. It won't help you. Keep your powder dry and go forward.
Interesting.
I want to get y'all's reaction to that in just a minute, but I know Kellyanne Gonzalez in the District 6 race, she's talking right now, I believe, addressing the media, and our Courtney Friedman is out covering this race. Can we check in with what
for our community?
Ms. Gonzalez is saying right now?
Born and raised here in the district. And so I think it could only help.
Win or lose, what do you want to say to your supporters, many of them in this room, but many that went out to the polls? What do you want to say, win or lose?
Thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for opening your doors to my campaign, to my message, to my team. And regardless of what happens here tonight, the fight isn't over, because the fight here is for a better San Antonio for everybody.
You and Rick are political newcomers for the most part. You're both kind of community activists. What should he win? And we don't know at this point, but should he win, would you support him, or would you want him, on your side as you push forward, as you continue?
Sure, I would support him in any capacity that I can to improve our district and our city as a whole. Of course.
Because of all the candidates, seems like you two kind of got along or did get along. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it just
I mean,
shows.
I have no idea what went on in the other races, to be honest with you. I was way too busy in mine.
Yeah, I understand.
But I don't hold anything against Rick. I think he's a bright young man, and he's got a bright future ahead of himself, regardless of what happens tonight.
Well, good luck. Thank you so much.
All right, an incredibly tight race. 49% for Kellyanne Gonzalez, 51% for Rick Galvan, her opponent in early vote totals. Anna, you were saying this is recount territory. This could be something that goes on into tomorrow. This is definitely one to watch throughout the night.
I've actually found that interview refreshing.
Right.
The fact that
I
she's
will
like,
support, it's improving the district. That's the main goal,
improving
right?
the city, improving the district. Whoever wins, I'll support him if he wins. I hope he'll support me if I win.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of found that.
Didn't quite hear that in the mayoral race.
Yeah. I kind of found that refreshing in a way.
Here's the thing. When you see a virtual tie, what I'm thinking in my head is I need to get this person involved somehow, because half of my constituents say that they like what she's saying and what she's proposing, right? I only can serve 8 years, right? Or if I have a plan to serve 4. What's helping these districts, especially District 10, 8, and 9, these districts have had a succession plan. So when you see better infrastructure, better funding, better things, it's because they know years in advance who's up next. And so when you see District 2 and District 3 and 4, it's kind of like, okay, whoever gets in and out. You see the inconsistencies in investments, and you see the changeover in leadership. And so I think this is an opportunity for District 6, because obviously they have 2 bright individuals who are very passionate and actually know what they're doing when it comes to running these campaigns, to start working together on what's better for District 6, right? No matter who wins, that other person, in my opinion, should find a way to be involved, work together, and for the citizens. At the end of the day, that's who we do this for. So.
Yeah. Another thing I find very refreshing is the fact that we have better voter turnout this time. That people are up there. We're talking about records compared to 2019. I mean, and that's what I always say. I don't really care who you vote for, just that you vote.
Exactly.
So I think that's
Please
great.
vote. There's so much at stake for that, for the reasons you're just
Let's go
mentioning.
to our Dylan Collier. He is at the Dakota Ice House. Gina Ortiz Jones on the stage. Let's listen in. All right, actually, that looks like it's Molly Cox.
That is Molly.
Used to be part of our power panel on the stage. And I think we're having trouble hearing exactly what they're saying. We're expecting Gina Ortiz Jones to take the stage a little earlier than expected.
Oh, sorry.
As soon as that happens, we're going to make sure to bring it to you. We've got our Dylan Collier, who we heard from a little bit earlier, keeping tabs on this. If Gina does take the stage earlier than we were expecting, then, of course, I'll bring it to you here on the live stream.
Yeah, it kind of looked like Molly was introducing people that were with the Gina Ortiz Jones campaign. I think that was Jordan Abelson, her campaign manager.
And we did hear that the campaign planned on having other people address the crowd, address the media before Gina Ortiz Jones does. We weren't expecting to hear from her until results were finalized tonight, but of course, things could certainly change, and we're keeping an eye on that stage.
Yeah, and again, she said she will not do media interviews until this race is decided one way or the other. What I'm guessing is maybe they're announcing that she has arrived at the watch party. That's my guess of what is happening right now. I do not see her taking the stage. I'm trying to see if that's her in front of the stage. Yeah, thank you for taking that full for us.
I haven't seen her quite yet, but definitely it's a crowd that's excited.
Yeah.
And watching the stage to keep an eye on, the person that they are there to support. We were talking with. All right, there she is.
All right, let's see if we can listen in on this.
I'll stand right here. That's okay. All right. Put that Air Force We're working it out, friends. We're working it out. Is that right? Yeah. All right, y'all. How we feeling? Well, thank you all for making time. The results are rolling in, but I couldn't be more thankful as I am this crowd of people, and I know Terry and her husband and so many that have knocked on these doors, Love delivered pancit and lumpia earlier. So many that have worked very, very hard to get us just to this point, and we are not done. We are not done. Thank you. I think we have seen, we're so proud of the vision that we have put forward. A vision not only of getting stuff done, but of treating people with dignity and with respect and with compassion, right? We are so excited about what is possible for our city. Are we not? With everything happening around us at the federal level and at the state level, some of the most un-American things we have seen in a very, very long time, it is very heartening to see where we are right now. And I think we will continue, God willing, for the results to go our way. But I just want to come out here and say a quick thank you, a hello and a thank you to so many of you that have knocked on doors. Knocked on doors and phone banked and text banked and done everything. I myself just was talking to some of my neighbors earlier and said, hey, you got an hour and a half. Let's go. So thank you. We are excited. We know this is not done, but as I look across and see so many folks that have worked so hard, I want to say thank you. And I'm now going to spend a little bit of time thanking you individually. But thanks for making time, and hopefully we'll have some good news here shortly. Okay, thank you.
All right, that was Gina Ortiz Jones talking to her supporters, and very clear in the fact this was not a declaration of victory.
She said it wasn't done.
Still a long ways to go, she said. Still some things that they want to take care of. I want to apologize for the audio, too.
Yeah.
The campaign wouldn't let us put a microphone up there on the stage. So that is why you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. That's what my mom used to say. So that is why the audio was a little shaky there.
Yeah.
I hope by the time this thing's decided that hopefully we can get a little bit better audio from the Ortiz Jones watch party.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you sticking through that. If you could, we could hear it a little bit. So we're going to take a quick break. Stick with us. We got a lot more coming your way after this quick break here on our Election Night live stream. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our Election Night live stream, coming to you from the KSAT newsroom. We have our power panel here with us. We have been rolling through these early vote totals, and while the crowded field is now down to 2, it may still be a very long night. It looks like so many of these races are still really close as we're waiting for more than early vote totals.
Yeah, and I want to talk to the power panel right now about their take on what they heard from Gina Ortiz Jones. It seems to me like she's happy, but doesn't want to declare victory just yet. You agree with that?
No, I think again, there could be still people in lines. It's going to take a while for boxes from all over, or precincts. We call them boxes because they're physically boxes to get into the elections admin. And there's also the fact that there was a tremendous amount of spending on both sides to really move this election. So yeah, I think we still have some time to hang out with each other too.
Yeah.
So
Well, I couldn't think of
a better way. Yeah,
I couldn't think of four other people I'd rather spend
You know what?
election
The
night
spin
with.
zone. My favorite place to be.
If you're Gina, you're happy that you're in this situation. Obviously, you want to keep your supporters encouraged, but also being respectful for the results as
Cautiously
well.
optimistic.
She did kind of talk about some ongoing issues at the federal. What's happening right now in our climate, right? And I think I've said previously on other segments that I think it's totally okay to have an opinion about what's happening around, because it affects whether it's happening on the federal or state level. It actually affects your citizens as well. But as far as trying to pass, policies that may, put us in a lawsuit or anything like that, I think that's something to kind of discuss and talk about. But I think it's totally okay for her to be an advocate for those issues that she cares about.
Yeah, and I think, this was not a scheduled, they were pretty scheduled on the Gina Ortiz Jones docket, what they were going to do tonight. This was not a scheduled appearance. I think this was her showing up after she went to some of the polls, and when they closed, she showed up. And to me, I kind of found that a refreshing take from Gina, that she, hey, thanking people, we're in this till the end, and I thought she struck the right tone there for where we are in this campaign.
I agree with you. For someone who has stuck to her script so closely, to step out there a little bit, that's a good sign, because you're absolutely going to have to do that when you hold that office.
So look,
you can't hide from people.
Well, and that's what we're dealing with two people who have not been involved with city politics up until this moment. And so there's going to be a learning curve, whichever one of them wins.
For everybody. No matter who you are, no matter how many PhDs you have, there's always a learning curve at City Hall. You're going to come in and learn what you can't do, you get your hand slapped, and you're going to learn, I'm not doing enough, and what your ceiling is. Your floor and ceiling, you're going to learn that. For the elected official, it's going to take you a couple of years. If you're a staffer, it's going to take you about a year. This is the way it works. And obviously, you got to also gel. As a mayor, you got to show some leadership, which I think she does have, to be able to get everyone to gel, be able to count to 6, set the agenda, and get things done. Obviously, we have some big issues coming up. Project Marvel, housing, transportation. VIA has a couple of big projects happening right now. So there's a lot going on, so you're going to need somebody to hit the ground running and being able to gel quickly as a team.
And now San Antonio City Council and the mayor have 4 years to do that instead of 2.
Well, that was the thinking, right, behind the 4-year
Which for me,
term.
I like that, because, 2 years, like I said, if you're new, you're learning for that year and a half, and now, I got to ask you for money again. So some don't agree with that, but I just feel that 4 years is a good barometer of, hey, how have you done? Have you been a good public servant? Have you done what you said you're going to do? And you have a good, what do I say? You have good metrics to measure your body of work over the next 4 years.
I think donors will appreciate it. And then ultimately, exactly, in our taxes. Ultimately, I did 6 legislative sessions in the Texas House. It took me 3 or 4 really getting it down. So I think this will hopefully give people, especially with a lot of new blood on council in a very young city and the 7th largest city in the country, to have some of that growth that has to happen to really move San Antonio in the direction that it deserves.
I was on the council that changed it from 2 2-year terms to 4 2-year terms, and that was the biggest fight I had with my mayor, Phil Hardberger. Because I wanted to go to 2 4-year terms. He wanted to go to 4 2-year terms, and we went back and forth over what we thought we could pass. Because that's really what it was about. We had to take it to the voters. And so I'm happy it's gone to this.
I want to add something real quick, and this goes back a little bit. We talked about her temperament leading up till today, how she's more light. So as a veteran myself and as a golfer, I will talk about this, right? When you're locked in, and you're focused. You're playing, you're competing, right? You don't want any distractions, and you have your blinders on. And sometimes that can seem cold because you're locked in. Once you feel like you have a 2 to 3 point lead and you're walking up the 18th fairway, you take off your hat and you start smiling and waving, right? It's not over. You still have to make those last few putts. But I think this is what you're seeing, right? Gina's been locked in. She's been focused. some people may have taken that as cold. Maybe a little bit it was, maybe it wasn't. All we know is that you could say that she's locked in, and now she's starting to open up a little bit. Now she's seeing that she has a chance to really take this. And so I'm hoping that for us to see another side as well. I mean, she may stay the way she is, and that's totally fine. But I think we've seen, I think people want to see a more,
Choose carefully.
Well, we got to get to Avery.
All right, we're going to get to our Avery Everett. She's standing by with Ivelisse Mesa Gonzalez in the District 8 race. Avery, how's that candidate feeling? Got to be pretty good.
A lot of excitement after those early voting totals. I'm joined by Ivelisse Mesa Gonzalez right now. Ivelisse, how are you feeling looking at the numbers for this race?
We feel fantastic. We feel great. All that work we did over the last 15 months is brought us here. And so we're excited. My campaign team, my family, volunteers, friends, everybody that made this happen. And most importantly, the residents of District 8.
Matt, take a look at just how many people are here watching this room. I mean, to be surrounded by family and friends like this, well, how does that feel tonight?
It feels awesome. It feels great. I'm born and raised here in San Antonio. We've built a community in District 8. We're rooted there, my family and I. And so this all it makes sense, right? This is exactly where we're supposed to be.
We're still waiting for precincts to release some of their votes from tonight, but with the lead you have right now, there's a very real possibility that you will become the councilman for District 8. What comes first if you take over that seat?
So first things first, we want to make sure that District 8 has a smooth transition, right, from one council member to the next. So any issues that residents were dealing with in the councilman's office, we want to make sure we take care of those first, and then also layer in the issues that I heard from different residents at the door and meet and greets. And so that's important to me, that we just really do get to work on day one for residents.
Last question I have for you, what are the biggest needs of District 8 right now that you plan on addressing?
I mean, it's always going to be about public safety, it's going to be about construction, and making sure that residents know what we're doing in the city. Making sure that we're spending those tax dollars on those basic services that we pay for, our parks, our streets, sidewalks, libraries, public safety, but also making sure that District 8 residents know what we're doing as a city. I think that's important to folks, and so that's really what I want to make sure that District 8 residents know, that we're working hard for them, that I'm working hard for them every day.
Ivelisse, I don't want to take you away from the party any longer. Thank you so much for letting us be here. Steve, Myra, I'll send it back to you as we continue to watch this race.
All right, Avery Everett live with the candidate in District 8 who looks like Ivelisse will be serving that district. I'm excited to see what she does, to Kevin's point, talking about her being very involved, running for several offices before. I'm interested to see how that district takes shape with her at the helm.
She ran for county judge, correct? That's the last race that she ran and lost to Peter Sakai. So now she's on the city council. What kind of person is she? I mean, for those that don't know a lot about her.
She will have the least amount of learning curve.
Right.
Because she worked as a staffer in the mayor's office.
Chief of staff.
Yeah. Chief of staff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So she knows how the mechanics of day-to-day
She's hitting the ground
council
running.
life work.
That's got to be such an advantage.
She knows how the political game works. So her learning curve will be
Very
the smallest. She has a real opportunity to take that knowledge that she has. And look, the first thing my father told me when I ran for council, if you can't count to 6, you can't get anything done.
Right.
All about the mayor's race, at the end of the day, the mayor is one vote.
One vote.
Okay? You got to have 6.
Yeah. We have Katrina Weber also. Oh, she's not ready yet? Okay, District 9, that's another one that we're watching. I know Katrina is efforting to get an interview with Misty Spears in that race, who looks like she will be serving that district as soon as she is able to get a minute with Misty Spears. We'll bring you that interview.
And these numbers that we're getting are still early voting numbers. We haven't got any election day numbers yet, but the totals do look, at least in the mayor's race, look like it is the total of all of the early vote that we've seen so far, and we're coming up on an hour since the polls have closed. So we would expect some election day numbers to come out. I also don't think we've got the exact totals on just how many people came out today?
I don't believe so. I don't think that we heard that from, when last we checked in with Zaria, there were still people in line. So that was 7:30-ish or so. So as soon as we get updates on that, we will talk about that. We did mention earlier, as far as the mayor's race goes, all the money. That's been such a talker, such a topic of conversation. All the money that has been poured into this campaign. You've got two people, despite the handful of folks on city council who hoped to be taking that office, two people who have never been in this office before. You think that really was a big determinant of why there was so much money put into this race?
I think so. I also think it's part of what makes it even more partisan. So, look, I'd love it if we could limit the amount of money that's spent on campaigns. Okay,
Yeah.
But hey, that battle's been fought
the world
over and
we're
over
living
again.
in. Right.
Okay? What we've done for our local electeds here is put a limit on them. So what does that mean? That means that they, as individual candidates, can only get so far. Okay? If you can raise, in a mayor's race, $500,000 in the city of San Antonio for your campaign, that's a ton. But you need $1.5 million to run a campaign. Okay? And that's got to come from somewhere, and now it comes in from a PAC.
Because the individual cap is $1,000.
You got
If
it.
you need 1.5 million,
Yeah.
yes. How are you going to get that from individuals?
2,000 for couples.
Yes.
Well, and let's also
individual.
Let's talk a little bit about the money in the field, though. You do have more conservative, Republican-leaning PACs that are spending 3 times as much as what Gina Ortiz Jones and people affiliated with her were spending. You had, I think, a party and an apparatus who really wanted to lay claim to San Antonio. And so what is that going to do? It's going to drive up the costs. It's going to drive up the number of calls and the door knocks and everything that people receive. But what we know about Bexar County is it's still a heavily Democratic county, 60-40. I don't think it's going to not move too much. We're not in the year 2014 where the swings used to still happen. So that trend is going to continue. But yeah, there was a lot of money in politics. It just came from one side more than the other, in my personal opinion. I think in the opinion we can see in the finance reports.
So, but here's the important part about that. If you as the candidate, what you raise, you're responsible for. It's your message, okay? PACs, you can't have anything to do with them.
Not supposed to coordinate.
You can't coordinate.
Correct.
You can't control their message,
Correct.
okay? Which relieves you, the candidate, of a level of responsibility that I don't think is fair.
And I love a campaign finance debate because I think here's the other thing that I've seen in other parts of the country take up, to be able to a limitless amount in loans. That was something that came up our first time around, a month ago. That kind of creates the haves and have-nots. There are realities in other parts of the country where you can get matching funds from your local county or city. You can have limits on how much loans can be taken out. Like we had several candidates, Beto Antimiano, Manny Pelaez, give themselves 6 figures.
Clayton Perry.
Some money. Exactly. And granted, the voters had a decision and they made a decision on how they decided to take that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Katrina Weber is now standing by with the District 9 leader in this race, Misty Spears. Katrina, we'll send it out to you to talk to the leading candidate in that race tonight.
Yeah, well, we're actually here with Misty Spears now, a very jubilant crowd here congratulating her. A lot of tears from Misty herself, but what are you feeling right now in this moment?
I'm thrilled. I'm excited. I'm so grateful to the voters. I'm so excited about everything that we have before us for District 9. We've worked so hard. We just feel really proud of the campaign that we ran, and it's a lot of emotion, just mainly excitement.
Well, part of your campaign promise has been to get back to basics in government. What do you mean by that, and where do you start?
That's been the whole premise of my whole campaign. I am focused on public safety, our infrastructure, reducing our spending, and economic growth for San Antonio. And I think we do all of those things well, and everyone will be thriving, and it's going to be a great opportunity for San Antonio.
Sounds like an ambitious plan that you have there. We had a chance to go out and talk to some voters in this district. their issues did not quite align with the rest of the city, because you hear from people crime, traffic, growth, things like that. Everybody who I talked to said they wanted to assure that they had access to green spaces. That's a big issue here. What will you do on that area?
Well, we have the fewest parks in District 9, so that's something I want to address as well. And we need to really make sure we're maintaining the parks that we have. The parks that we do have see a lot more traffic because we have fewer parks. Green space is truly important for drainage too. So these are all things that are really important to District 9 and things I really want to focus on to improve the area.
And it looks like you have at least one ally on the City Council. We heard from Councilman Mark White, District 10. How will it be for you working with other members of the City Council?
I think it's going to be great. I know several of them that were running and the ones that are already reelected, and I'm excited to get to work together and find common ground and do what's best for our city.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I know you have a lot of celebrating to do. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
You heard she's got a very ambitious plan, and she plans to get to work on day one. Well, we'll send it back to you in the studio live in Stone Oak. Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
All right, thank you, Katrina. Yeah, that's one of the early numbers that come out. Very encouraging for Misty Spears early, 57% of the vote so far. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with our live stream election coverage of Vote 2025.
And Marina can go back.
Welcome back to the heart of the KSAT 12 newsroom. It is Vote 2025. A new mayor will be elected. It looks like the new city council is taking shape as well, except for one race that is very close tonight. We just heard from Misty Spears, who has a comfortable lead, though, in District 9. Let's check it out with our power panel, Kevin Wolf, Anna Ramon, DeMonte Alexander. What is Misty Spears' background, and what does she bring to the San Antonio City Council?
So certainly most recently, she's been working at the county with the commissioner, Grant Moody.
Grant Moody, right.
And so that gives her a good basis in how local government works. Now, I can tell you it's very different between the city and the county, different rules, those types of things, but working in that type of environment. So that'll help her. I like what she said on there where, you know, how is she going to develop relationships, those types of things? Because look, for whatever we want to say about today's race being partisan, nonpartisan, blah, 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 when you sit down in a council seat, you either operate in a nonpartisan manner or you don't get anything done, especially as a conservative.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think obviously Misty spent, from what I know, spent a lot of her time on the campaign side. She's going to have to transition that mindset to a governing side, which I don't think her learning curve is that big, but I think it is different from running campaigns and now being on the staff side and having to manage all of that. I will say that she has an ally. She has allies instead of, you know, obviously Mark White's a friend now, and depending on whoever else on council can go back and forth. You know, I think the council does have a little bit more conservative representation than it did previously. Would you guys say?
Yeah, well, and I think it goes back to what we've been saying. It's going to be a race to SACE for a lot of these folks.
Right.
It's going to be a race to SACE for Misty. And this is not just a Spurs reference, of course, but it's just that's something that all of them are going to have to deal with in a changing time, a changing electorate, a changing city. But yeah, hopefully she'll be able to think and put aside, like I think hopefully everyone does, like partisanship after the very next day and really think about governance.
Well, and that's the thing when we look at the breakdown, and you all said this, I mean, when we talk about the mayor, that's just one vote. But the mayor does set the tone for the city. He also sets the tone, statewide. Be careful.
Yeah.
I said he or she.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's still just one vote. So there are some important issues that if you're a member of the city council or you're the new mayor, that you're going to have to deal with. Oh, yeah. Project Marvel, I think, is probably getting a lot of the attention right now. Yeah. But the fact that you're going to have a deficit, that you're going to be in a budget crunch coming up, that's also something that, factions could change. I mean, you could see a different faction voting for or against Project Marvel, then figures out where we're going to cut for this budget.
What we have is, you had a mayor previously that had a priorities and an agenda. We have a new mayor that's going to have new priorities, new values, new agendas. And I think what she said before, a budget is your budget is your conscience. What is it?
A
moral. Your budget is a moral
document.
Right? And so when you have new representation, then those things look different. So, and I think what she said over the campaign is that, hey, we got to sit down and take a look at all this and see what is really best for San Antonio, and even based on my priorities and our team's priorities. And so I think it's going to look different.
There are huge issues facing San Antonio.
Yeah, and I only mentioned two.
I throw CPS in there.
Yep.
Okay.
Sauce.
And just tons.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. If I could give any advice to whoever is the next mayor, be a Phil Hardberger, and let me explain. Phil and I, philosophically, we're pretty far apart. But anytime that mayor wanted to get something done, he didn't call you down to his office.
No.
He went to you. Yeah. And he came to wherever you are and sat down with you and had a nice, honest discussion about what he wanted to do, why he wanted to do it. And you got to do, that's how you have to build those relationships. If you as a mayor tried to lead because you're the mayor and you don't seek out counsel from your compatriots, you'll have a lot tougher time.
And that's what I meant earlier, right? The learning curve, right?
Yeah. And can I make a case that's something we saw Ron Nirenberg learn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think his first term, learning it, didn't realize that maybe you have to build consensus. Yeah. You have to leave your office and go down. I think since his first term, he's done a much better job, from what I hear, of reaching out to council.
Well, let's
members.
be fair. There's Ivy Taylor. There's also Julian Castro. Yep. They all had to do the same thing, right?
Yep. Yes.
And so you're going to get in and bump your head and do some things right, get some wins until you figure out the right rhythm on what the body is going to allow you, how you lead, right? So.
Yeah, but here's the problem. The problems we have are now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have very tight timelines on a lot of those problems.
Can San Antonio afford a learning curve?
That's my point.
And
I don't think they can.
And if I was to say, maybe having someone who was an undersecretary of the Air Force wouldn't be such a bad person to bring into this role. Mainly because you're thinking about San Antonio is still, unfortunately, a town known for inequities and less equity, right? We had 15,000 door knocks between and with our organization, and even going into D2 and D1, and it was really still a case of have and have nots. So while we're having these conversations about the millions of dollars spent, what about the millions of people who are being affected right now?
Yeah.
And who is going to have that drive, especially when, and I keep bringing this up because I see it, I hear it, I talk to people all the way from DC to D2, right? You're literally going to be at an inflection point in the city, and you need someone to have a vision, but also truly the capacity to win and fight for our town.
And I will say this, someone who's tough, because you have to have someone who's tough to stand up and say what's right. So sometimes some very scary issues in people,
even if it's not popular.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think you've obviously seen that in this race, right?
Yeah. And thanks to those who passed a 4-year term to really let that happen. So, because it gives more of that time. Because Gina, and this is going to be not only Gina if she's mayor, but also a very new council who's not faced a lot of this. And I'm really excited for some of the people who are going to be in there, because leadership can look in so many different shapes and forms. Gina has leadership, as Evilise has leadership. And those are things that are going to really shape how council runs and moves.
And I also want to add this. I totally agree with what she's saying about the inequities of this city. Even during COVID, we were talking about, oh, we discovered all these things.
Right, no.
They've always been
They've
here,
already
right?
been there, yeah.
And so, absolutely, we keep saying this over and over and over and passing these resolutions that have no teeth on them. But I will say at the same time, we have to also think about those small businesses. Some of those small and mom and pop businesses who've been running for 20, 30 years. We have to think about the business community as well. At the same time, we're infusing equity into the city, because without those businesses, we don't have jobs and we don't have opportunities for those folks who do want to lift themselves up to actually have a livable wage and things like that. So we have to think about them together. Where are the inequities? How can we level those, level set those, but also what does our business community need and how can we bring them to the conversation to make it uplift everybody?
Speaking of the business community, and Anna, to your point, there are issues affecting people right now. Do you think too much of the conversation in this race was dominated by Project Marvel? And here's why I ask that. We asked our viewers yesterday, is Project Marvel influencing your vote? Is it affecting the decision you make when you head to the ballot? And when we were, coming up with our questions for our KSAT debate, of course we knew we wanted to talk about that, but we also know that what we hear from people day to day is, I don't have sidewalks. There's not enough light on my street. There are stray dogs that are terrorizing my neighborhood.
Drainage.
I mean, Project Marvel's obviously a huge project with a hefty price tag, which is still TBD in some ways. But do you feel like there was too much of the conversation so focused on this grand idea and not what affects people when they back out of their driveway?
I think it goes back to, there's folks like us who create batteries and conversations and stuff, but we're not living the day-to-day lives of like San Antonians. And to this point, we had 4,000 conversations on the doors, and everything you said is what came up. Like, how are you going to keep dogs out of my neighborhood? What is a complete street? Can we have lights? What does drainage look like? A huge issue here.
Flooding.
The fact that we have flooding, we have flood sirens in this city. Not many cities have that problem. That's what people want to talk about, and that's what this mayor is going to have to do, like very meticulous, rank and file efforts and needs that will make the determination of whether they get reelected or not.
There's just so much we don't know about Project Marvel, though, right now. So that for me, it was. I mean, we saw it in the debate that we did. It was an easy thing to kind of get around, well, we don't know this, or I support the Spurs, or and so it was kind of an easy one to get around. But that what you're talking about when you're talking about drainage and sidewalks and curbs and lighting, that's not new.
So I think Project
that's
Marvel,
what people expect.
Project Marvel, even look, I want to be excited about my city. I want to be able to go down and see all the lights and all those things. But I think those are first world problems. To her point, right? When you think about with all the rain that we've had, to your point, I think I never want to be mayor. I can tell you that.
Well, I think I'm right there with you.
It's just so difficult to juggle all these things. But I think you got to figure out, what's the best for citizens that live day to day, right? So to your point about when I back out of my driveway, am I backing into a pothole or a flood? Is my trash being taken out regularly? Yes, I want to go see my Spurs. Yes, I want to be able to go down to a nice concert. But just like families have to do, they have to prioritize. Some of these families say, hey, are we going to keep our lights on today, or are we going to get groceries? People are making those decisions every day right now. And I think the city has to do that in a larger scale. And some people may not see a Project Marvel is on that priority list versus, hey, I don't even have sidewalks in my neighborhood, right? But again, ultimately, that's up to voters to make that decision.
The nice thing is we're not really disagreeing on anything, but as a former elected official, the sooner I could get off of your radar screen, the better off I was. So if I were the one pushing a Project Marvel or something like that, I'm going to feed you as much as I reasonably can, because you'll leave me alone and I can go and focus on the things that I know my citizens really want.
And you managed to make your way back to us, Kevin. Look at that.
I know, You're not doing a good job about staying off our radar screen right now, Kevin. I just want to let you know that. All right, let's go to District 6 right now. Our Courtney Friedman is standing by with Rick Galvan in what is a very close race right now. Courtney.
Yeah, I feel really good. I knew it was going to be a close election. Our campaign team knew that from the initial election. We're only 28 votes apart, and so I'm glad to see that we are a little bit ahead right now. I actually didn't know until I got here after I showered from poll greeting, came right here, and my family got to tell me what was going on. And so I'm really excited to be here in the lead, but we're going to keep watching the results, and we're going to make sure that we get across the finish line. We did everything we could these past few days to get everybody out to go vote. We did everything we could this morning and at the polls all day, so fingers crossed, but I feel good.
Did how close the last race come? Did that make you a little more stressed or a little more energetic this time around? How did that change the way you were campaigning?
Yeah, no, I'll say from the very beginning of that, since we started knocking doors in December, we saw other campaigns who were really active as well. There was never a time where I didn't see Vanessa Chavez's door hangers, I didn't see Lawson Allen's Picasso's door hangers, and then eventually when Kellyanne jumped in too, I couldn't stop seeing hers either. And so I knew that we were all trying extremely hard to get across the finish line here. So I knew it was going to be close then. But yes, when we got those results of just less than 30 votes apart, it really made sure that spoke to me and my campaign to say, we're going to go every single day to these doors as much as we can. We're going to call folks everywhere we can. We're going to see folks everywhere we can and make sure they come on board to our team. And so I think we did everything we could, and I feel good about it today. Yeah.
What is your vision for District 6?
Yeah, District 6 is my home. Born and raised here, my family. I started the family here, went to public schools, probably the Northside ISD public schools here in District 6. And so my vision is really making sure that our district continues to be a safe, affordable, and quality place to live in for all of our working families here in our city. That means leaving no neighborhood behind as we continue to grow, and it means investing back in our communities and delivering a holistic public safety system that supports our first responders while also looking at the root causes of crime and violence in our community and addressing them as well.
So you've said throughout your campaign that growth in this area is positive, but it's also really debilitating for some folks here. Can you explain what that means to you, having lived here your whole life?
Yeah, no, I remember even as young as I am that there were still cows on 410, on North 410, when I was growing up. And so I remember going by Academy and seeing some of the farmland still. But that's changed a lot, right? And some of that has brought some new businesses into our area, new places to go shop at, even new schools in our area that our kids can go to. A lot of good things and opportunities for our families to be a part of here in District 6, and more families to come out this way too and get to enjoy the benefits of living in this part of the town. It's no surprise that we're growing so fast with the amazing school districts we have, college campuses, and all the great amenities we have in our district. That being said, it means making sure that our traffic congestion is being taken care of effectively as much as we can. It means making sure that our communities are safe and sound, whether it's for street safety or public safety too. It means making sure too that our folks are not left behind with investments into their infrastructure and other kinds of things like parks and amenities in their communities. Instead, not focusing solely on the folks that are newly coming into our district, but focusing on those in the long time areas too, including the pieces that haven't grown in a long time. The Edgewood area too, keeping them close to our hearts and not letting them go either.
You mentioned that you're young, and
Yeah.
that is something that's notable and noticeable.
Yeah.
But do you feel like age is only a number? Why do you feel like you're experienced for this?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of folks in the beginning of this campaign who are like, I wonder how far this 24-year-old candidate's going to go. And I think when I talk to voters directly, they're actually surprised when I tell them my age. They say, yes, I know you're young, but you're at least 30. I'm like, no. But the work I've been doing for a long time as a neighbor association president, having the trust of folks who are, a little bit older than me. I'm not saying they're significantly old, just a little bit. Trusting me to lead their neighborhood and advocate for them, on behalf of them for our better parks, better streets, everything like that, with our council folks and other state representatives. That experience I've had along with working in advocacy at the Texas legislature too, pushing, with legislators on both sides of the aisle to make sure we're delivering for public schools in our communities. And then working at city council right now too, working with city staff, working against city staff sometimes, and working with city council members across the political spectrum has given me the experience to really deliver for our folks. And I think folks saw that and really understood that, no, this isn't just some kid running. This is someone who is from our community, who has a passion for serving too.
So you mentioned that you're a city staffer, and a lot of people think that's a big deal considering the inner workings of the city is complicated at sometimes. So you see the good things, but what gaps are you seeing as a city council staffer right now that you think you could fill?
Yeah, I think one big thing is making sure that city council offices are being more collaborative with one another, making sure that we're looking at different policy solutions that serve all of our communities. I think our folks do a lot of good jobs right now. A lot of council members are trying to work together to do that kind of work. I'm really proud to be endorsed by council members that surround District 6, and so that kind of collaborative approach will be really interesting to really work on if elected, to be able to say how we make sure we're advocating for both sides of Callahan, both sides of Marbach, both sides of Tezzel, and all these pieces around us to really deliver solutions that work for all of us. That's one big thing. I think beyond that too is making sure that our city services are, one, not lacking, but two, have the resources they need to also deliver the services they want to do. A lot of our folks, our city employees, got these jobs because they want to help our communities. They want to serve our communities in some form or fashion. Parks, libraries, whatever it is. But there are always gaps in certain funding, right? There's not everything they can wish they could do. So making sure that they have the resources they can do and the skills they need to really get it across the finish line or across the board serving their residents is going to be my focus.
Just lastly, if things were to not go in your favor tonight, tell me what you would want to see for the district.
Yeah, You know, I think I would really like to see that our next council person continues to be a champion for working families, right? Making sure that we are looking at ways that folks can afford to live here in our city, whether they're new folks who are coming in, kids who are growing up, folks who have lived here forever or generational residents, making sure they can afford to live here in our city. Beyond that, making sure we're addressing poverty and public education needs as well, leaving no neighborhood behind as well to make sure that we are investing in the right solutions for our residents, and making sure we're staying connected too. I think it's one of the big things I heard at the doors, that folks want to make sure that they have an active council person. And I think seeing me turn different shades as I went to the doors each time because they could tell I was doing the work was giving them some confidence that I was going to do that. But you know, if we don't get across the finish line, I have some faith that my opponent will do well too, and that we can work together to do just that.
Thank you so much. All right, Rick Galvan, that is the District 6 candidate, and right now in the lead just by a couple percentage points. We knew that this was going to be a very, very close race, and as you can see, lots of support for you here today, Rick. Thank you for speaking with us. Stephen, Myra, back to you.
All right, Courtney, thank you so much. An excited crowd, an energized 24-year-old Rick Galvan with a slim lead in this very tight race for District 6.
Will he be 24-year-old City Councilman Rick Galvan?
Yeah.
That's yet to be determined. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our election night live stream. We're still waiting for updated results. We've taken a look at early vote totals over the last hour and 20 minutes. We know at least an hour ago people were still in line, and I thought that would be a good time. Y'all know I love an explains. Let's do an explainer. Oh, hold on. I had a question to ask about what happens after polls close, but Rolando Pablos, we're being told, is addressing cameras and his crowd right now. Is that right? Can we go check that out?
Let's go there live.
Do we need this man to be the next mayor of San Antonio? For the last 2 years, I've sat up on that dais, and I have wondered to myself what this city could be with the right person sitting in that mayor's seat. And the first time I talked to Rolando about his vision and his thoughts for San Antonio, I knew that this was the man to take San Antonio to where people needed to go. And I'm going to tell you this. He's a fighter. He's a fighter. And we're going to stay here tonight as long as it takes and count every last vote. And at the end of the night, I am very, very hopeful that the next mayor of San Antonio is going to be Rolando Pablos.
All right, everyone, it's going to be a long night. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
From Rolando Pablos. Instead, we heard from District 10 Councilman Mark White alongside the mayoral candidate. I guess we'll be waiting a little bit longer to hear from Pablos himself.
Yeah, although Pablos did say it's going to be a long night.
He did say that.
It's not over.
He did say that.
Certainly some enthusiasm in that crowd.
Yeah.
More so than we checked in with Garrett Berger earlier. And it's interesting, Mark White making the rounds today. He went to was at the Misty Spears campaign. Now he's at the Rolando Pablos campaign. You know, perhaps setting himself up for higher office in the future. I mean, it's the Mark White tour tonight that we seem to see a lot of, but you didn't sense pessimism necessarily in there, but they realize where they stand right now.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of anxious people there, saying, oh God, please release some new votes and let it start trending our way.
Right.
Give us some hope.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see when.
Yes.
And we should be able to tell pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's 8:24. It's been an hour, almost an hour and a half since we had the early vote released. I think Myra had a kind of a KSAT explains
All right,
kind of question she wanted
We're
to
going to do
ask.
this Explains Live. No, I just thought it would be important to tell people what happens after the polls close. You mentioned the boxes earlier,
yes.
Anna.
Yes.
What physically happens after those polls close that has to lead up to us getting election day numbers?
Okay, number one, big shout out to Isabel Longoria, our deputy director at Annie's List. She's the former elections admin from Harris County.
All right.
So I've learned a lot of this, not firsthand, but secondhand. So I will try to remember everything she's told me. Well, ultimately, those boxes of votes have to physically travel from their location to the elections admin office. And then with like the laws that are in place, counting happens day of. So like every individual count has to happen like today. And there's a lot of other rules and laws. You could argue that this has been over-politicized, overburdened for a lot of different reasons, but ultimately those are going to be some of the reasons why we're waiting. Because think about how big the city is. It could take 45 minutes to an hour to get from St. Hedwig all the way to the elections admin downtown. So it's just going to take some time. So it's a lot of physical moving of votes.
And it's very, very controlled, to your point.
Yes.
They are actual physical cages on wheels that they must put the boxes in. It has to have TPI, two-person integrity at all times.
Yes.
It can't be counted until it gets to the centralized location, and it can't be counted without representatives from
both sides.
opposing
Yes.
sides present. So it's quite the process.
And you can watch the feed online if you so choose.
Right. Yes.
Which some people do. Yeah, they sure do.
They do.
Bedside watching material, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when we're expecting the next batch. You said your sources tell you like around 8:30.
Historically is 8:30, but this is a new election admin, right, and a new election, so everyone gets grace in these opinions, but in these points in time, but I'm really hopeful that 8:30 will be our first round of election day votes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't know the vote today total yet.
No.
We don't have that total.
No, but I think they said like around 39,300 right before 7-ish. So I think what we had talked about was that between 40,000 to 42,000 is probably where we'll end up.
I think it'll be 42,723.
Okay.
Wow. How much are we betting Whataburger on this?
Our next KSAT explains is Kevin explains how he came up with that number.
It'll be the quickest one I've ever done.
Exactly. That's right. If you're the candidate and you're sitting there and you're Rolando Pablos or you're Gina Ortiz Jones, what does this hour and a half feel like?
Oh, it's hell.
So you've been a candidate.
At this point, whether you're Rolando or Gina, it's hell.
Yeah.
Okay, because you just don't know. I try to tell candidates that, look, especially on election day, 6 o'clock comes around. I said, try to step back. There's nothing you or anybody else can do at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Try to untie that knot in your stomach and try not to think.
Right.
But
take a shot.
Easy to say, but
easy to say.
And there's some very sore index fingers.
Is there some relief though in the fact that you've for lack of a better word, the hay's in the barn at this point?
Yes.
I mean, you're done.
Yes.
You've given it your all. There's nothing more you could do.
Yeah.
So,
well, there is a sense of, the day that I took off, should I went to knock, or should I have sent out that extra mail, or should I have hired that extra canvasser. Like you start going through all those. If I've missed anything, and if any of those things are going to really impact. So your mind is racing. You don't know what to think, but you start thinking about, did I miss any steps, or if we could have done this and that. So
well, we often talk about.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
It does happen.
Yeah.
But I wanted to jump on something you said. There is a brief period of time, okay, where it's like, whether you won or lost.
Yeah.
Okay, you're just, it's over. Right?
Yeah.
Then you jump into the second guessing game.
When we talk to new candidates, we often talk to them about, and you just illustrated this, I think, really well, the pain of winning. Like, it's not, or the pain of loss. Like, campaigns, we call it political endurance. Most of these candidates are making literally thousands of calls a week, talking to voters, running teams, running budgets of, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the stress of like not only getting to this point, but then as everything we've talked about, governance and the next step and like what that wave can feel like. I think only you know what that feels, and that's okay. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of intensity, a lot lot of just like these, again, inflection points.
It puts the pain in campaign.
It sure does.
All right.
Money bags.
Let's go to the, okay, District 1, we're hoping to hear from Soup Corps. She just stepped away.
She's getting her dog. Oh, she's getting her dog.
She's getting her
let's
dog.
check in with our Daniela Ibarra. She's there live. Daniela, as we wait for Soup to join you, I'm guessing they're pretty excited there.
Yeah, it's definitely a different atmosphere than the May 3rd election. A lot more people in this. She's actually on her way to talk with us right now. I think she's grabbing her dog back there. But we just came from Patty Gibbons' watch party. It was a more somber mood than this watch party right here. And hold on, it's getting quiet. Let me see what's going on real quick. We were told that she's actually going to make some statements in a couple of minutes, but we're trying to see if we can get her to talk with us before she does. But like I said, we were at Patty Gibbons' watch party before this. It was a much different mood than this. We talked with Patty, and she said that she wasn't ready to concede quite yet. She was waiting until the numbers wrapped up later tonight. She did say she didn't think that she would be able to make a comeback right now. She has about a 35-36% of the vote. Soup Corps, in the meantime, she has over 60% of the vote. She's been talking with a lot of her supporters. We have a lot of people here in shirts supporting her. I see one of the other councilwomen right now, and you can see right here they're testing the sound system right here. But like I said, the councilwoman looks like she's about to make her way over here to talk with us. Seeing her hug some of her supporters. She's been talking with a lot of them throughout the night. She has her dog with her. Awesome. So we're live right now. But
okay, great.
Yeah. So how do you feel about tonight so far?
We are super excited about the results. We worked really hard. It got the campaign really long, but we're excited about the results.
Yeah, so last time it was kind of a nail-biter. I know you were just under the 50% that you needed. What do you think changed in the last month to get more of the support?
No, so I think we really talked to the community and shared that we want to work. And one of the things that we said is District 1 is about preserving our history while still moving our district forward and making sure we're making decisions that are going to build, it's going to build a San Antonio that our future generation can live in. And that's what I think the neighbors and residents voted on today.
So I know right now you have a pretty strong lead. Are you going ahead and claiming victory tonight?
We don't claim anything until the Bexar County Elections Judge Czar says it's done. So we'll wait and see.
Okay, so right now you have that strong lead. If you are elected in the next 4 years, what is your biggest priority moving forward?
Absolutely. So one of our biggest priorities has been infrastructure, so it will continue to remain that way. We need to revamp the way we address our streets and sidewalks. It's so hard to tell a resident, your sidewalk's not done, and we have nothing that we can do to help you. So we want to make sure we have a plan for that. And second, continue to build affordable housing. We need to be able to build housing for residents that can afford to live in District 1. And so that's what we're going to continue to focus on. And then the last, for public safety, our stray and loose dog population. It's a big challenge, and we'll keep working hard to address it.
So I know District 1, a good portion of Project Marble is going to be in District 1. What is going to be your role in that project moving forward?
My role in...
You're looking at our live stream right now, so everyone's getting excited because you're on TV. But
I'm sorry, I thought the results came out. So we are going to continue to work on community engagement. Super exciting. If you're listening in, the community engagement plan for Project Marvel is going to be July 8th and 9th at Oblate School of Theology. So come in. There's going to be days all day, both days. There's going to be sessions on housing, on transportation, and there's going to be a community forum on Monday evening from 6 to 8. So please come join us because we need your voice to be heard, and that's what I'm going to fight for, is to make sure that every decision that happens for Project Marvel from this point forward takes the voice of community first.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
All right.
Daniela?
So we're going to stay here at this watch party, and of course we're going to continue to follow this race for you. So I'll send it back to you.
Hey, Daniela, I want more information on the dog. I want more information on the dog. I mean, that dog goes with her everywhere. She's got like a little dog carrier with her.
I know some people who are
Okay, let me tell you, this dog is a trooper.
Yes.
Daniela, you would be the one to give us the info on the dog.
I'm like, I can do a whole hit on the dog if you want.
But like Steve said, you don't really see Super Bowl without the dog. So I know some people watching this are going, did they just say she's going to get her dog?
Yeah, of course.
Of course she is.
I was surprised the dog wasn't with her all the way through.
Right.
And Andrew Wilson to our left is sitting over here going, find out about the dog, find out about the dog. So we got it. All right, let's go to the election administrator, Michelle Carew, who's addressing the meeting.
For the mayor's race is Gina Ortiz Jones with 53.44%. District 1 for City of San Antonio, Suk Carr with 64.97%. District 6 with 50.48%, Rick Galvan. District 8 with 57.17% is Ivalis Meza Gonzalez. And for district number 9 with 57.26% is Misty Spears.
Just to check, no one else is in line at any of these locations?
Everything's already, every single poll site is now closed. So they're just making their way in right now.
And can you talk a little bit about, I don't know if you have that percentage to compare to 2009 numbers, just to kind of go over how well we had voter turnout this year.
So voter turnout in 2019 was 15.43%. We finished out today with 17%. In person today, we had 40,281 voters. And then cumulatively, over early voting and election day, there were 143,048 who cast their ballot.
Between now and the next election, what is the goal to increase the number of people coming out to vote?
Currently, like I've mentioned in the past, we've been revamping our social media and also working with stakeholders throughout the community to ensure that the election information is shared across the county.
And obviously we talked earlier, it was right at 7 o'clock, there were a few people still in line. Do you feel like giving those results a little earlier, that results were still coming in, played a role in anyone changing their vote or anything like that?
I don't believe so. The people that were still voting were already in the polling site.
Yes.
Do you know why this isn't updating?
He's updating it right now. We have to hit refresh. So as soon as I can refresh it for you here in just a second.
And will you be giving any other updates throughout the night? Have there been any issues, anything like that, any
No,
delays?
it's been very smooth. We're super happy with the way things are going. We did put together a new traffic route for our judges when they're coming back in so that they can come right directly here and won't have to worry about clogging any of the streets. We've opened multiple lanes to help speed up the process, and we're hoping that we'll be finished just as early as last time, maybe a little earlier.
Okay. And are many of the precincts that you're waiting for to come in, are many of those outside areas, or are a lot of them closer in?
I haven't even looked at those numbers to see who has come in, you know, if they're the closest or the furthest, so I don't have that answer for you, sorry.
It's okay. All right.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay, let me get Vicki. Vicki?
Thank you.
All right, that was Michelle Carew, the elections administrator for Bexar County.
She was talking about a little adjustment, update in the numbers. She did have that number of how many people actually voted today, 40,281. Kevin, I've forgotten your prediction. I think you were 500 and some off. And we're trying to get those updated numbers, and we'll hopefully talk to our Zaria Oates a little bit later about what we didn't hear her say right before she got started and joined us here. But she said overall she feels like it's been a smooth night. She didn't feel like releasing those results, early votes early, was a mistake. Everyone, she said, should have been in the polling sites at that time, didn't have their phones with them. That's something that we've certainly talked about here. So, yes.
Yeah, it's 17% turnout. That beats what we had in 2009. Is that right? Is that what she said?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our Election Night live stream here at the KSAT newsroom. We are about an hour and 40 minutes after the polls have closed. Got a little bit of an adjustment in the numbers, which we're trying to turn around and get those updated for you online right now. But I'm interested to get everyone's take on the today turnout.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Has thoughts.
Yeah.
Today's turnout.
I know. I just feel like I need like one of those cash machines. So
we'll get you one of those hats with
the visor,
green,
and then we throw dice. And
great.
no. So even just looking at like absentee votes, like Gina led absentee, and then you look at early votes. Gina led early votes. I think there could be an assumption that Gina could lead Election Day. We kind of talked about that trend. So ultimately, obviously, still waiting on results, but I think it comes down to what we've talked about, how much of her runway is left. Can Rolando do well enough? I think it needs to be around 56% of Election Day to really overtake Gina, and that's going to be a tall order.
It is. It's tough. It's a tough hill to climb. I am happy that we actually exceeded 15% on turnout. We did crack the 40,000, so that's good. But yeah, it's a tough hill to climb, but it's still climbable.
I'm glad to hear those things, because I was really kind of depressed with the numbers that we had. Even I know Fiesta was going on. I know people were distracted by a lot of stuff. And people were making, there were 27 candidates and all this other thing, but it was kind of depressing turnout in May.
Yeah, a lot of distractions. So, I mean, that's what you're going to get.
And we talked about this back on May 3rd. Having 27 candidates, you don't want there to be such a hurdle to running. But is there something you can do to keep it from being such a fractured race?
Oof. It's hard because, like, of course I'm pro-democracy, so it's hard to say. You want to keep a threshold so like people have access and you democratize democracy. And I think ultimately, the sad reality is money begets politics, politics begets money. We did have front runners. I think you heard me say it, and I'll say it again. It was always going to be Gina, right? Because we knew that she had the capability not only to raise, but also had built-in name ID, had a good profile, one that has nationally been of interest to people. Same thing with Rolando. So I just want to stick by those words, and I think even though maybe the process didn't totally filter people out, ultimately Election Day will.
I wish there was a yes answer to your question, but there's not really.
I don't know how you do it.
Not without disenfranchising someone.
Right.
And so, but I remember we all called exactly what was going to happen in May. We said Gina first, Rolando second.
And we'll see more people on June 7th. Yes. More people will come out once it's down to 2.
I mean, maybe there's a hybrid. For the mayor, maybe you do something with that. That's a ton of responsibility. Not that city council isn't, but I do agree with Anna that we have to make sure that we're not disenfranchising folks and giving them an opportunity to run, but at the same time, if we got 60 candidates, you can also say that, okay, well, I mean, say Gina was on page 5. Right?
Yeah.
And there's 10 candidates on the first page who didn't even start a campaign. So I think there's some work to be done in there, but I'm a believer that anybody who wants to run should have be available to and access to do it.
All right, I have some homework I'm handing out here.
Okay.
These are, it's not really homework. It's just what the latest numbers were that the
I'll just copy Anna
elections
like
administrator.
Nice. Exactly.
It's roughly 8,000 votes from today, if you look at that, and Gina is leading by 1,800 votes, so she's increased her, Gina Ortiz Jones lead, so she's increased her lead. But again, that's 8,800 of the 40,000 that came in today.
Yeah.
So,
and if you look at the breakdown of like the actual council districts, it looks like, you know, a lot of these could come from Council District 1 because you have more election day votes out of that. You don't have much coming out of Council District 9, which is like a threshold for Rolando Pablos. So I don't think there's a lot of votes from D9 or D10 yet. And these early numbers, like as we talked about, these are probably like southwest parts of Bexar County. But good to see that at least in some of those areas, at least for Gina's team, that you would see an increase in the vote share.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see when I'm glad you pointed that out. It'll be interesting to see how the election day splits out in some of those more right-leaning districts.
Based on where these are coming out of, I would expect a bump.
Yes, for Gina.
On Gina.
Yeah. No big surprises in this.
No.
Yeah, we're just waiting for them to update their website, then we'll get to see these. That's why we do the old.
The paper trail.
There's always this conversation when we're on elections where everybody talks about how strong the North Side is. It's the North Side votes. North Side are educated. But I think what you've seen is when San Antonio tends to show up, it looks blue.
Yes.
When they show up. And I think when you look at Gina's finance report and the way they manage their budget and the way they spent their money, where they prioritize their dollars on the ground, this is what shows up. The disenfranchised communities, the folks who, well, you don't have a voice, they tend to show up when you knock on the doors and you touch them. And I think with Annie's list, you didn't have to say it, I did.
Oh, thank you.
With the help of Annie's list, with the work that they do on the ground and the money that the candidate invested in the field campaign, this is when you start to see these 100, 300, 1,000 votes really help out in the whole, right?
It even goes back to, I feel like we're going back into yesteryear, the map from election night in May. It showed a very diverse coalition for Gina. So while she may not be picking up, the hard numbers in some of these areas, she's going to pick up across the city, whereas I think we'll see Rolando pretty landlocked in like the northern part of the city where he picks up. So once those are kind of finished, he has nowhere else to go.
It'll also be interesting because the Ortiz Jones camp has always said, even when there were 27 candidates, we will not be outworked. Our ground game is second to none. And I think that showed in May, and I think that's maybe what we're seeing right now too.
Yes, I think, there's some really, I think we can, share and talk about more of this. You had organizations like TOP and organizations like ourselves and the Gina campaign. You're talking about thousands of knocks and talking to people on the door. And what we know about voter contact and best practice, the most effective voter contact is on the doors, because you're having a one-to-one conversation, and 31% of people in Texas get their news on who they're going to vote for at home.
Right.
So once you get in the door, and it could be through KSAT, it could be, there's a lot of ways that they can get this message, but people have to hear someone's name 6 to 7 times before they really understand, start to formulate an actual relationship with that person. So the best way to kind of jump that is at the doors.
Yeah.
So there was to your point, I think there was a knock and a field effort that we saw on one side with Gina's team that wasn't necessarily reflected in Rolando Pablos's team. As much as I liked watching the plane with his banner,
and the billboards.
And the billboards. It's just not. It wouldn't be a tactic that I would employ.
Right, and that's a lot of resources.
Hearing a name 6 to 7 times, a lot of people had already heard her name 3 or 4 times, 5 times before the race even started.
Just like Evilise.
We talked about name ID and just what a critical component that is in all this.
ID's king.
She talked about landlocked, right? So when you look at, say for example, when Ron ran. Ron was a council person for 7.5 years, 8 years, right? You didn't really know where Ron stood, whether on a political side. He was a true nonpartisan race. So I think when Ron ran for office, he was able to appeal to a wide variety of voters across he appealed to the business community, the more conservative voters. He also appealed to the more progressive voters. I think when you talked about landlocked for Rolando, outside of District 9 and a little bit of District 8 and 10, you're really trying to really scrounge to find pockets of voters who would vote
or receptive
to a conservative or values and messages, right? And so it's always a tough field battle. It's what I was talking about to the team. It's very hard to win in Bexar County, countywide or citywide.
Smart campaigning on behalf of Gina. Trying, and so far successfully, tying Rolando to the Abbotts of the world. Even though I know him, and I know that's not who he is.
We talked about that
campaign.
on May 3rd, though. We talked about, would that be an Achilles heel? Would that be, a negative for him in Bexar County, that connection with the governor?
Well, this is the pain everybody talks about campaigning is, right? Is
exactly.
That when it comes to fundraising and money and resources, I need you, but you're unfavorable by like 64% in the area I'm running. Like, it's a give and take, and this the political side of it, right? I think most people who know Rolando probably know he's not that far to the right, but you're running a race in Bexar County where you have to show a difference, separate yourself between the other candidate, and one way to do that is to, plus you're also going to use that you were appointed by this individual, right? And you're using that as reasons why you should vote for me because I was Secretary of State, I was appointed, but at the same time, that individual may not be as favorable in this area. So.
We've got so the numbers have been updated. This says with 25% reporting, and I think this reflects the numbers that we saw: 53%, 47%. Gina increasing her percentage by 1 there, and as we go to District 1. Again, Secor, 65% to 35%.
That's 100
for Patty Gibbons. And as we go to District 5, this remains very tight, 50-50. I mean, like we said, this is as tight as you can get. 80 votes, roughly separating
80 votes.
These two. And as we go to 8, you can see Ivelisse Mesa Gonzalez holding on to her comfortable lead. And District 9, where Misty Spears was in control, she continues to be 57% to 43%. Again, these are 25% reporting out there. And at least the initial reaction to the numbers were these are boxes that should have been friendly to Gina Ortiz Jones, and it looks as if they were.
I will say, though, that spread means, I know we were talking about 56% of the vote Rolando needs. I think it's higher now, right? And
right. Every time you whittle away at those 40,000.
Because his runway shrinks. And I think what Rolando wanted to do, and I think something that Greg Abbott and his team wanted to do, is they needed some of these south side, west side boxes to switch, probably Latino men in particular, to vote for Rolando. And we didn't necessarily see that. So his pathway is whittling down to, I would almost say, impossible at this point. So I think we can talk, there's a lot of talk of like what has to happen, right? We talk about race for SACE, but there's also race to 51. And I don't think that the tactics they employed, especially aligning themselves with a very unliked Greg Abbott, was going to do Rolando any favors.
Kevin, your thoughts?
I'm not giving up till I see that number hit 54.
Well,
71%.
He just did it.
Well, I'll just say this: the former data director for Ron Nirenberg, who may have been helping us as well, just said that Rolando Pablos needs 71% of the remaining.
Yeah, I heard that number. I heard that number too.
Yes.
And obviously that, but that doesn't really go against what you just said. It's a tall order. I mean, he still needs.
The hill just got higher.
Yeah, exactly. I would say the hill got mathematically impossible.
Okay. Kevin's not with you until this says 54%.
Kevin might have some secrets in this hat that I don't know about.
Yeah. What's he gonna pull
Holding on for hope.
He needs more than a rabbit.
The Mary Poppins
at
of
this
hats.
point.
Yeah.
I am taken by just how close this race is.
Race. Yeah.
50-50. I mean, 80 votes right now separating Rick Galvan and Kellyanne Gonzalez. I mean, both of them, like I said, it's refreshing that both of them are like, hey, we'll work together. We've got a lot of things going on. I think we can work together going forward. But, I mean, this is all going to come down. This could come down. I mean, if you don't think your vote matters, this race is going to prove you wrong.
I lost election by 7 votes. So.
Yeah. Are you okay?
You want to talk more about that, DeMonte?
No.
Suzanne De Leon, former mayor of Balcones Heights, 1 vote.
Yes.
One vote, yeah.
And then a tie, fun facts, a tie means a coin flip in Texas. So we've actually had a coin flip earlier this year, and I don't, yes, it's in the law. Wow. So hopefully we don't end up with a coin flip here.
Hey, if you end up with a coin flip in this one, this is like, if this philosophy is your candidate, you can't go wrong with either one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, they're essentially
they're not going to vote any different.
Yes.
Wherever, if Kellyanne Gonzalez votes a certain way, I don't think Rick goes the other way.
Yeah. And what I love about this frame, if we're framing it, is this frame looks like the future of San Antonio to me.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting because this is a district that I think, it kind of teetered and like a little back and forth for a while. But now look, this district is becoming more of a progressive fight and who's going to be the best candidate. And I think they've both put on a very, very good reason as to why.
To Anna's point, if you remember when Ray Lopez, District 6, it was very blue. Brockhouse comes in, he starts more 50-50, probably even 55-45. Now you're starting to see that swing back the other way. I mean,
I just like seeing 2 young people so excited about the political process and about the future of this
hire
city.
the other person, and you guys have a dynamic team. Just hire the other person as a chief of staff or a field director. Get that person involved, because obviously the community, like I said before, they're vibing on both of these.
Just to give a shout out, like a Texas Freedom Network, which it does a lot of good work around bringing youth and youth engagement, along with Texas Rising. I believe they're both products of that, and we're very honored to say that Kellyanne is an Annie's List trainee graduate. Like, it's something to be said about these pipelines that we're discussing and we've talked about. You have to build this generation, and frankly, I think it's even more so now as we're trying to catch up, and I say we as in like more of like the progressive versus the other apparatus. Texas is moving, and we have to have the pipelines to do it. And I think both of these individuals are really indicative of the pipeline and growth that can happen in our city.
Since we're talking about pipeline, shout out to LSA, Leadership San Antonio. Leadership San Antonio, baby.
It is like going back in time. It's like going back to May 3rd.
Exactly, yeah.
We're going to take a quick break here at our live stream. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our election night coverage. Vote 2025. Mayor, 4 council races up for grabs tonight. And it is trending towards Gina Ortiz Jones. As a matter of fact, one of the national decision desks calling the race for her moments ago. We have not done that, and neither of the candidates have come out and declared victory at this point. But I want to show you the map, and you were talking about landlocked and Rolando Pablos. As you look at this map, and I don't know if we can take this full or not, Patrick, but the green that you see on this map is for Pablos. The blue is for Gina Ortiz Jones. So it gives you an idea that most of the north side expected going for Rolando Pablos, and the blue, which is really the heart and the inner part of the city, and the south side going
East
for
side,
Rolando,
west side.
or going for Gina Ortiz Jones.
Most important color on there is the gray. Look who isn't turned in yet.
Yeah.
It's more north side votes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. You're talking about here like Timberwood.
Yeah, but also your northwest. That is, as you get further out, it gets more conservative.
Yeah.
I know that area up top where I live is way more conservative. Yeah.
So you're still seeing a path?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I know you're not in.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about Kevin.
Hey, I'm in this boat.
Yeah.
I see a victory.
Yes.
And but the last vote hasn't been counted, and that's important about our process. So, but really excited to hear that Decision Desk has made this, and not that I'm Decision Desk, but I would call this for Gina Ortiz Jones.
You know what's interesting about this map when we talk about equity?
Yes.
You can lay every single disparity map on top of this one, and it would be the same in terms of lack of transportation, lack of health care. I mean, this is definitely going to be a transformative election in terms of that conversation. But when I see that, when you put the people who are in poverty, you just name it.
Yeah.
And those maps look very similar to all the maps when it comes to equity.
Yeah, and I'm guessing some of these are probably that's Alamo Heights, and I mean, are they?
That's like Converse. Well, that's like
they're not part of the city of San Antonio, is my guess.
No.
Oh yes, that actually, because
they are.
Well, so
this would be.
You're talking about
Alamo Heights.
So
right.
Correct.
On the top up there, that's unincorporated area.
Yeah.
That's Bexar County. We're San Antonio, Bexar County, but we can't vote in municipal elections.
Right.
So we're in the ETJ. That's why it's great.
And I would say the Great Northwest is actually better for Gina. Like those were boxes that the campaign, I think not only the campaign themselves, but other organizations hit really hard to make sure they heard Gina's message.
So is this pink area that we're seeing here, this is maybe a tie or?
Yes, it's probably very small precincts, are like very small reporting to show ties.
Yeah.
But you are correct, Steve. Those white little things you see.
That's like Alamo. I just wanted to explain
what we're seeing.
Alamo Heights, Terrell Hills.
Alamo Heights, Chavanel Park.
Right. If somebody's looking and they're like, what are these? I just have to kind of explain what they are.
Okay. But the grades are still reporting.
Yeah, and I did have somebody tell me that the totals from D9 have not changed from early voting yet.
So we haven't gotten much of D9.
So we haven't gotten much from D9 in the mayor's race, which I think is kind of why.
Well, it explains the distance that they have to travel to get to.
Yeah. But those boxes will come back more green in this case, which would be for Rolando Pablos. So it'll be interesting to see if he can make it up. But like some have said, some much smarter people than I are saying he needs 70% of the vote of what's remaining right now, which does not seem
and other people like Decision Desk and X. So, but
right, they're saying it's done.
They're saying it's done. Yes, and I just really excited to see what comes next, and not only with the mayor's race, but a lot of what we talked about is like a changing council, especially in a changing city. So it's gonna be interesting.
Turn my mic back
All right,
on?
let's check out some of the. Some of the regular votes, what we have on our totals here.
Yeah, I thought so.
I want to go through the numbers again.
I just switched it, so maybe it wasn't.
Things have changed. Here we go. Yeah, still 25% reporting. Gina Ortiz Jones, 53%, 47% for Rolando Pablos. I did get the feel that the Pablos camp felt like they needed a robust turnout today. And they needed their people to turn out today.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything in the early vote that surprised you? Did you expect Rolando to be in the lead coming out of early vote?
I expected it to be closer, yeah. Yeah, I expected Rolando to be at about 52 after early vote.
Right. Yeah.
It was the opposite of what I expected.
Yeah. All right. Well, the elections administrator is talking right now. Let's go back in. She's been giving the numbers before they hit the internet. So
Still
let's listen
ahead
in.
in the mayoral race is Gina Ortiz Jones with 53.66%. Sue Carr for District 1 with 64.94%. Rick Galvan still has a lead at 50.35%. District 8, Ivalis Meza Gonzalez has 57.28%. And then for District 9, Misty Spears at 57.08. Now the cars are starting to come in at a faster rate, so we should have another update for you shortly. Are there any additional questions I can answer for you guys?
Do you by chance foresee this coming in at 100% before 10 o'clock?
That's our goal. We're trying to beat the last one.
Yeah.
We're very competitive.
Okay, all right. And then how many cars are waiting out here? A lot right now?
I haven't
or?
looked.
Okay.
To tell you the truth.
Go ahead.
Anything else? Anybody? Okay. Vicky?
Can I see a picture?
All right, that was Michelle Carew, the elections administrator, has been giving us
Right this right
a lot of updates that she gives us, and then we get it on the internet, and then we try and figure it out what it means. But it didn't sound like this race has moved that much. It was still 53% for Gina Ortiz Jones, but we're not sure how many more votes have come in to make that whole thing happen.
Because one of the questions I think I believe it was your reporter asked, like how many cars were left out, is again the physical moving of boxes from point A to point B. So yeah, we're not sure. That's it. I have nothing else to share.
We're not sure.
We're not sure.
We're not sure at this point. Rick Galvan, 50.3%. Wow.
No, I would not want to be on either of those camps right now. It's a testament to their work. It's a testament to the council district and democracy. But these are the ones that hurt the hardest.
I've been there before, so we're actually sitting in there, and it's that close. And you're getting calls from other folks, from the state level, national level, saying, "Hey, you should." Because you have to pay for that. You have to pay for the recount, right? Yes.
Yes.
And so you're considering whether you pay to do a recount and all those things. So all those things are probably happening, or discussions are probably happening right now in terms of what the options are.
Well, our Courtney Friedman is actually at the Rick Galvan watch party tonight.
That was a special
and
election.
She joins us live. Courtney, set the mood for us right there. This is a 50-50 race right now. I'm also curious how close these two watch parties are to each other. Are you thinking maybe it's time to jump in the car and go back and forth between the two of them here?
Yeah, Steve, you know those election nights where you get a district where you know it's going to be close, and so we've mapped it all out. It's about 10-12 minutes, Robert, like 10-12 minutes apart. So we lucked out because sometimes they're a lot further than that, and we are just hauling back and forth. But you were talking a little bit earlier just now about the stress that must be felt at these campaigns. But you would not know that here. Both of these campaigns are very relaxed. I mean, I've covered a lot of different races, and it just seems like everyone is very positive, very supportive. I was over with Kellyanne earlier, and now here still at Rick Galvan's watch party, and it's just very relaxed. I think they're both just very positive, relaxed people, it seems like, and so it is an interesting thing to see the numbers come in, and I feel stressed out for them, but they seem to be handling it very, very well. And so we know, like you were saying earlier, like you heard from our interviews, they're very similar visions. They're both from this district. They both experience the issues in this district. They want the best for it. So they are willing to work together on that, as we heard from both of them. So it's a very different race than some of the other ones that seem a little bit more heated. But it's interesting because this is the closest one by far. We thought 51% to 49% was close, and now we're basically 50-50, just a few votes difference. So it will be interesting to see those numbers coming in. Rick's over here, and we may want to speak to him again because we really have seen him super relaxed. If you give me a second, let me just see. Hey, Rick. Hey, Rick, we're live again. Do you mind if we ask you a couple of questions? Okay, yeah, we got him right here, guys. Thank you again. So, the numbers just came through. It's 50-50. What does it feel like?
Oh man, I mean, again, I knew it was going to be close, and I think I saw on election day we saw both of our supporters coming out in full force, and so we'll see what happens tonight. I feel good though. I feel confident we're going to pull out the very last second, so hopefully we get it done.
Yeah, I mean, there are still numbers coming in, but we were talking, our panel here is in our live stream, and they were saying it must be so stressful being in some of these campaigns, but you seem very cool, calm, and collected. Is that on the outside and inside you're stressed out, or how are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel really good because I really feel that we put everything we could to this campaign, that we left nothing on the table. We went to every single turf that we could, into neighborhoods across the district, from the newest ones to the oldest ones, everywhere in between. And so, I think I feel good with whatever the results come out today because we know we put our all into it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. There you have it. Like I said, it seems pretty cool, calm, and collected. Lots of support out here.
Courtney, you know what I found refreshing about both of these candidates? There's no animosity between these two candidates. I mean, they both seem to know that the other one's heart is in District 6, and they both seem to be supportive of each other and their visions in this whole thing. You get that same sense? No animosity between these two candidates.
Steve, say that one more time.
I didn't get the sense that
cheering was so loud.
I know. I didn't get the sense that there was a lot of animosity between these two candidates. I mean, they're running a very tight race, but both of them are very clear about the fact they would support the other one if they don't win.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying. I've covered a lot of races, and this seems to be almost the one with the least animosity that I've seen. There was, we were in a little mini press conference earlier, and you would think that there would be at least a few words. I would be better because of this, but Kellyanne had nothing but wonderful things to say. You know what? I would love to support him if he wins. So I think it's really rare, especially in today's age, and especially with the elections that we've seen from local all the way to federal. There is so much animosity in general, so much friction. So it's really nice to be covering a race, I have to say, where there's so much positivity on both sides. Obviously, both of these campaigns want to win. They have big plans for this district that they've both grown up in, and their families and friends are all here. However, it is a really different feel, I will say, than some of the other races that I've covered, and also a lot of the races just in general over the last several years, whether it's municipal, state, or federal. So it is a really interesting piece that this is the closest race today, and we're buckling in. So we're going to be watching those numbers very closely, and yes, we are ready to go back and forth between the camps if needed.
12-minute commute. You already got it figured out. Courtney Friedman, live from the Rick Alvon Watch Party. Thank you, Courtney. We'll see you a little bit later, and certainly tonight on the Night Beat.
I believe we have our Garrett Berger. Is he still ready to go? We want to check in with the mayor's race. He's covering Rolando Pablos for us tonight. Let's check in with Garrett. We've got an update on the numbers.
And yes, we are
Garrett, what's the mood now?
It's definitely more subdued over here at the Pablos campaign. I've been circulating amongst the crowd, trying to talk with supporters. I'm hearing a lot of determination that they plan to, hang in there, that they think he might be able to come back. But as the numbers are coming in, it's looking a lot grimmer. This gap has widened. It seems unlikely that the rest of the precincts are going to make a complete turnabout. But you've still got a lot of supporters here. It's not like this is clearing out. But we are waiting to see more precincts come in. We're hearing questions about, where are these votes coming from? And they're really hoping that the north side turns out today. And that's been a stronghold, as we saw with Misty Spears leading in her race. Every time she comes on screen, that's when we're hearing cheers here at the Pablos campaign, because right now there's not so much to cheer about from their vantage for the main event. So we're waiting to see some more. We've only heard from Pablos once so far. It sounds like he is ready to buckle in, wait until more votes come in. We haven't heard from him since then. Mark White was out here, the District 10 councilman, here to support Pablos. He also mentioned that it looks like he'll be getting another conservative colleague, Misty Spears. Not his words, but that is kind of how it shakes out. They would be essentially two conservative votes on an otherwise pretty liberal San Antonio City Council. And if this keeps going, it looks like we'll probably have a Democratic-leaning mayor rather than a Republican. But people here still waiting to see.
Yeah, Garrett, a lot of people still there. I mean, that does not look like a watch party where they're throwing in the towel right now. I mean, you get an idea of just how many people are out there. Yeah, it gives you a good sense of the fact that they still think there's a chance that Rolando Pablos can come back. We're going to continue to monitor the numbers. We're actually going to check in with our Dylan Collier next, the Gina Ortiz Jones campaign. Garrett Berger, thank you. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to our Vote 2025 coverage. We have been following all of the city council races that are up for grabs tonight, as well as the mayor's race. And throughout, we have seen Gina Ortiz Jones hanging on to a lead. She was at 53-47 last time we checked. We just got the mood at the Pablos campaign where they aren't throwing in the towel. What's happening at the Dakota Ice House where the Gina Ortiz Jones watch party is taking place? Our Dylan Collier joins us live from there right now. Dylan.
And Steve, as the election results have rolled in, the website seems to be behind the reporting from Zaria actually at election headquarters. So she's been posting pictures of the results. I then take that to Ortiz Jones campaign and show those results to them. They then inform the crowd, which then erupts obviously in celebration as the numbers continue to pour in. So at last check, Gina Ortiz Jones with if you consider the number of votes counted from today, a pretty comfortable lead, a lead that has widened since the early vote came in. She has only taken the stage one time. She offered brief remarks about 90 minutes ago. Since then, they've brought on to stage a number of either former politicians from the area. Julian Castro addressed the crowd about 10 minutes ago. Current members of council, Jalen McKee Rodriguez, had some boisterous comments for the crowd and then did separate media interviews after that. So a lot of excitement here at the Dakota off of Hackberry as we kind of get close to what looks like it's going to be a Gina Ortiz Jones victory. She has not declared victory in this race. They're waiting for another batch of results to come in, but it looks like it's a narrower and narrower route for Rolando Pablos to be able to close that gap and to catch Gina Ortiz Jones. We have also not been given an update on when she plans to take the stage again to address her supporters. And again, they put that rule in place heading into tonight. No questions from the media until the race has been declared.
Hey, Garrett, Dylan, stay with me. We checked in with Garrett just moments ago, and Garrett was talking about how nobody has left the Pablos campaign watch party. Obviously, nobody has left the Gina Ortiz Jones watch party. When you're talking to some of their staff, are you getting a sense of more optimism there than you did perhaps earlier in the night?
Very much so, Steve. I think we've gotten to the point where we're not quite ready to declare victory. This is speaking on behalf of Ortiz Jones' staff. Not quite ready to declare victory, but if there's another batch of votes that goes this way, where you see that people who voted today favored Gina Ortiz Jones against Rolando Pablos, I think at that point they'll be comfortable enough to say, we've got this one in the bag. She is the next mayor of San Antonio.
All right, Dylan Collier reporting live from the Dakota Ice House for us. Of course, stay put, Dylan. We'll be checking in with you throughout the evening, and of course tonight on the Night Beat at 10 o'clock. But this is the latest numbers now. We have 51% reporting, so let's quickly run through the numbers. Gina Ortiz Jones at the 54% that Kevin Wolf wanted to see. She's there now.
No, I did not want to see that.
Oh, you did, yeah. That you needed to see before you thought that it was too tough of a hill to climb. I mean, obviously at the Pablos camp, they still think there's a path, but it's as you see more and more of day of numbers come in, the mountain gets higher and higher.
It does, but looking at the map, we're still missing north side votes. So
right. The question is,
can it be enough?
Can it be enough?
What was your number? 56? The 56 number you were talking about? Is that what? Okay.
54.
Oh, you said
that was the number he was looking at.
Well,
54.
She's at 54. Yeah.
All right. Let's quickly run through some of the other numbers now that we're at 51%. You can see in District 1, Secor has actually been leading most of the night. She's actually increased her lead at this
100%.
point. 30%, 65 to 35. That one, I think we can safely all agree, is over.
Look, man, anytime you get...
As we go to 6, this has been the tightest race of the night, 50-50, and with this one, it's down to 66 votes.
Wow.
Was 80-some votes, it's now 66 votes, separating Rick Galvan and Kellyanne Gonzalez. And as we go to District 8, this one has also not really been that tight of a race tonight. Ivelisse Mesa Gonzalez, 57-43. Ivelisse's mother, Choco Mesa, very familiar political operative in town.
You were going to say it right, formidable.
Yeah, formidable. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, she comes from a politics background, so no surprise that she's successful
Choco
tonight.
had juice, man.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. All right, and then in District 9, Misty Spears, 57%. Angie Taylor Arumburu with 43%. We're going to wrap up this live stream about 9:30. I'm not sure. I'd like to see some of those numbers come in. The elections administrator said the boxes are coming in at a more rapid pace than they were before. What do you need to see, Kevin, before you say Gina Ortiz Jones is the next mayor of San Antonio?
I got to see the next report.
You want to see some north side numbers come in?
I want to see the north side numbers, but I do want to say something about these two candidates in 9.
Yeah.
I got to visit with both of them, and this is another area where either one would have done a good job.
Yeah.
And so, I hope to see, Angie do something going forward, and I expect Misty to do a good job.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the mayor's numbers here, if we can. There we go. 54-46, still 51%. And this is roughly 8,000 votes, 8,700 votes right now between the two of them. Can you make the case that if this is a 60-40 city, that Rolando Pablos actually ran a good campaign?
I would argue that this is where partisanship is. When you look at municipal elections, they tend to be older, less diverse. So it's not necessarily, and I think that's very important. When you're looking at the city and who actually is making these decisions, it's not necessarily reflective of the population. While we're very excited about 15% of the people in this election, like from the city voting, that's still 80-something% of a lot of people missing.
Right.
So while I think, of course, this is reflective, I think, of a lot of good time and money and energy and ideas and honestly a campaign that Gina Ortiz Jones won. I think it's also reflective of the fact that we need an easier path to voting. We need more democratization. We need less strains on our electorate because we live in a very difficult state to vote in.
Give me examples, like when you say make it easier. Like what are you
Same day registration, right? Online voting registration. You just have things that are barriers to, like if you want younger people to vote, they're often transitory, right? They're moving because of school, and they get to a place in time where they're like, oh, I want to vote today, and like I can't because I needed to have registered 3 weeks ago, right? So there's just things like that, and then we do have SB1 in place from multiple legislative sessions ago that still have implications on how we can vote and practice democracy in the state of Texas, and it's in the courts right now for potentially having violated equal rights laws. So we do not live in a democracy that's meant to make voting easy, and we're seeing that when we only get 15% of the population voting for mayor.
No, I don't really agree with that.
Okay.
There are unnecessary hurdles to voting, but the biggest unnecessary hurdle to voting is an individual's responsibility. There are a lot of ways to
You
vote.
don't think that right? You don't think that people see it as big a responsibility as it is?
They don't see it as their duty, and I firmly believe that it is. And I don't disagree that there are unnecessary hurdles to voting.
Yeah.
But the number one unnecessary hurdle is the individual's right and duty to go vote. To answer your question on this, I would say yes, Rolando has run a good campaign because it should be a 60-40 split, and it's not. Okay, just look at our last county judge race. Okay, the Republican didn't even break 40% in that one.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But so I'm going to turn the. I like to turn tables here and be the devil's advocate in certain things. But if I think you also, like you're talking about democracy and voting and making the hurdles, lower or eliminating them altogether. This was just Gina Ortiz Jones won this, if it holds, which is good old-fashioned campaigning and a ground game. I mean, she was outspent. There was more money on the other side. She won this the old-fashioned way.
Yep.
You agree with that, DeMonte?
Absolutely, 100%. Based on what I read, based on what I saw a heavy commitment on field and ground and what it takes to run a ground campaign, and she did that. And to Anna's point, I think it's 3-1 among any other outreach component that you use. I think she did a very good job with that. I've talked since before we had the general election. When I looked at her finance report, I thought it was managed very well. They did a great job with that. And that could be from her experience as undersecretary managing multiple budgets, doing a count. It looked very well, and it looked like they prioritized their resources very well.
Yeah.
But I think she also has, Bexar County or San Antonio has more buckets for her to pull from. And a lot of times candidates don't have enough money to pull from all those buckets. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so she was able to raise enough money, whether that's friends in DC or friends in California. She needed all that money to be able to tap into that voter network to be able to pull them in, and she did that very well. But you can only do that on the ground. And there's only so many votes you're going to pull from mail and text and all those things, but she did it with one-on-one conversations, which is great.
Yeah.
I got to throw one caveat to what you said. I think they both have run tremendous campaigns. I think it's very, very unfortunate for our local community that both these campaigns were run in a partisan fashion. Because we've all sat here today, and all we've talked about that the people really want from their local folks has nothing to do with partisan.
Yeah, now, me saying that she ran a good campaign and not saying that Rolando didn't.
Right. That's why I wanted to say the positives for the Pablos campaign, the positives for the Gina Ortiz Jones campaign. That's just what I was trying to get at with both these. It wasn't one against the other that somebody did something wrong, but I think those were the keys.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what I would like to, I think what everybody wants to see is a more nonpartisan type of conversation where, hey, it doesn't matter who you voted for or what political affiliation you come from. like, I'm here to represent you as well. And, you know, but I mean, she put in the work, man. You know, she put in the work, and that's what the numbers show.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I know, again, while we don't want to partisanship things, like sometimes we just have to be honest about where we are as a state. Like Governor Abbott put it out very openly that he wanted to win in San Antonio. And that changed the dynamics of how everyone was going to look at this race. And ultimately, you have, you know, money, yes, moving on both sides, but I think and I hope that regardless of what took place, whoever's going to be elected is going to think about governance and those individuals once they sit on that dais. I think we could assume that for either of these candidates. Obviously, don't probably agree with a lot of what Rolando Pablos is, and I frankly think he got swept up in his own party and how they politic these days.
That's a dot right there.
This is our graphics haven't updated yet. We're waiting on the county's website, but that's 71%.
I do think
we're also told that Gina Ortiz Jones is about to address the crowd. So when that starts, we'll cut away and go to that.
Yeah,
we're going to go past the 9:30 mark because we want to make sure we get her remarks.
I think what people need to remember about Gina is she's ran before, and the race was called, and there was 900 votes short, right? And so I can understand her being a little bit more cautious and making sure that it's called before she comes out and makes any statements. I don't think she's dodging or anything. I think she's just trying to be cautious and make sure that the numbers are the numbers before she comes out.
Yeah, and this hasn't been updated yet. It's at 51%. This is at 71%, the numbers that were just handed to me. And Gina has 53.95% of the vote. So she's gone under the 54, but she's not, the numbers are not slipping to the point where it looks like Pablos is going to come back and win right now, and the closest race we've been watching all night is the Rick Galvan race, and he has 50.2% right now. All right, Gina Ortiz Jones is on stage at the Dakota Ice House. Let's go there live.
Thank you. San Antonio, how do you feel? Thank you. Truly, I am looking out into a crowd of folks that work their butts off. And I could not be more thankful. It was my name on the ballot. But you and I know decency was on the ballot. Kindness was on the ballot. Compassion was on the ballot. And San Antonio showed up and showed out. There are so many people I need to thank that have worked so hard. First of all, though, I'm grateful for God's goodness and grace that has brought me to this point. He would never give me more than I can handle. I know that. And I'm thankful for him bringing me, all of us, to this point. I want to thank all of the organizations that have been so instrumental in making this happen. It was a coalition of people. From our veterans, our vote vets, to our LGBTQ group. I see you, Lindsay girl. I see you, Judge Rosie. I see you, Graciela! So LGBTQ Victory Fund, I know, is here. The chair of the board, Joe Falk, thank you. HRC San Antonio, thank you. Annie's List. Not yet, but I know they made this happen. Right, so many groups made this moment happen. I see Texas Organizing Project here. I want to also thank, as I look at the individual volunteers, my goodness, so many of you that have been with me for a long time, and I appreciate you. Because this is a race, as we move forward in a community, I am very thankful for the opportunity to be able to serve with everybody in mind. Right? When I think of those folks that we need to always remember, Well, actually, before I move on, let me also just thank the Gomez family. Thank you for your generosity, for your leadership. All these years, I've been thankful to get to know your family in this short amount of time, but thank you for your leadership. As we think about what's going on in this moment in time, there's a lot going on at the federal level, there's a lot going on at the state level. But we here in San Antonio, deep in the heart of Texas, reminded folks what San Antonio stands for. Didn't we? We reminded them that our city is about compassion and it's about leading with everybody in mind. And when one side offered racism, we offered compassion and focused on getting things done. When I think about moving forward with everybody in mind, I think about my fellow veterans. I think about my fellow veterans that understand the moment in time that we're in, understand, unfortunately, the attacks on our Constitution, and the importance for us to do our part to remind everybody, not only in our country, but in the world, what American values are and what they look like in action. And as at the federal level and at the state level, they work to not see my LGBTQ community. Here in San Antonio, our mayor, your mayor, will be focused on serving everybody, because in this city, everybody is treated with dignity and with respect. I also want to thank the hard-working unions that supported my campaign. Because as we know, if you want to address poverty, you pay people a living wage. I want to thank Northside AFT, SA Alliance. I want to thank CWA, IBEW. Very thankful for the Central Labor Council and all of their support. I want to thank my team. Motley crew of hard-working, we ain't taking no for an answer. We are gonna get it done. I am so proud of them. We've got folks like young Elliot. Elliot, where's Elliot? Elliot is all of 18 years old, and he's been a wonderful volunteer. He's going to go off to UT Austin here shortly. I've got Manny. Manny, I think, is still in the car. Manny's wonderful. Kareli, where's Kareli?
She's at the, they're coming over.
They're still, see folks, they're still at the headquarters. They're still crunching those numbers. They're working hard. I'm so thankful for my hardworking team. My campaign manager here, Jordan Abelson. I also want to highlight a special guest. They don't know I'm going to do this, but I think it's really important. When I was the undersecretary, I was at Lackland Air Force Base, and I was meeting with those folks there. And one of them was a transgender drill instructor. And I remembered that face, and just last week, that face showed up at one of our events. And Brandon, if you're up here, I want to highlight Brandon because Brandon is from San Antonio. Transgender man, drill instructor in your United States Air Force. Or go Air Force, that's right. But unfortunately, is getting kicked out because of the executive orders. And so what it does is just remind us that leadership matters. Leadership matters. Leaders do three things. They create opportunities, they protect opportunities, or they erase opportunities, right? So I look forward to being a mayor for all. I'm very proud of the fact that Brandon's going to stay in San Antonio. It's unfortunate that the United States Air Force is not going to benefit from your talents because of bigotry. But you know what? Our country, I think we're going through a blip right now. But San Antonio has had the opportunity to say, you know what? We're going to move past this. We're going to remind everybody what is possible when we focus and we keep the main thing, and that's leading by example, right? So, Brandon, we'll find a spot for you. And I want to end. I want to thank. Where's my mom? Mom. My mom, you know, I often think about the courage that my mom had to come to this very special country. My mom graduated from the #1 university in the Philippines, but she came here as a domestic helper. And I always think about, wow, like I don't know if I would have had that amount of courage, right, as that young person. But she was so inspired by what our country has to offer. That when that opportunity
All right, Gina Ortiz Jones declaring victory tonight. And what I took from that is she said she wants to be a leader for everybody. Clearly reaching out to maybe those who didn't support her in this mayor's race to let them know she wants to represent them as well.
Really thanking the LGBTQ plus community, talking about compassion, talking about being a mayor for all. Definitely a celebration for Gina Ortiz Jones tonight and all those out there who supported her.
All right, we're about 20 minutes away from the night beat, so we're going to take a little break. I want to thank Kevin Wolf, Anna Ramon, DeMonte Alexander. They're going to join us live on the night beat that comes your way again in about 20 minutes.
Live.
Gina Ortiz Jones, the third female mayor in the history of San Antonio, declaring victory tonight.
We'll see what history she makes in that seat. Join us on the night beat at 10 o'clock.
See you then. Next time I'm going to say we're going to be here till
Come on, look, I brought snacks. I offered you one.